Notice for today concerning potential transfer of the water treatment plant and land to the Greater New Haven Regional Water Pollution Control Authority. And the procedure today is going to be, yes, I know, thank you. The procedure is going to be, first, presentation by Steve Nocera on behalf of the administration of the town. After the presentation, should be about 20 minutes, I expect. There will be a public hearing. People have signed up already. Mr. Nocera will be speaking for that podium, so I have the sign-up sheet. And if anyone else wishes to sign up, they can see me back here by the, I guess I'll stand back here by the camera. After the public hearing, and each speaker will have 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes, it's standard council rules. We usually limit it to the public forum session, but this is a little bit different. And we ask that everybody maintain decorum, please. In the last series of meetings, there's been some outbursts that just aren't pleasant, and it's hard to conduct business, and it's not fair to speakers.
Oh, too bad.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Would you like to raise your hand, please?
Never you mind.
Okay, you gentlemen, please. I'm going to ask that you maintain control.
No sale.
If there's an outburst, I will ask that people be asked to go to the back of the building.
Let's just be nice, okay?
We're trying to be
Let's
nice.
not sell the sewer.
So, sir, I'm going to ask one more time that you sit down and not have an outburst. So after the public hearing, which I expect will be conducted with proper decorum, there will be an answer session to the questions raised during public session. Mr. Marcone, I've got the sign-up sheet here. There will be a answer session for the public questions raised, and after that session, where the administration will be answering questions, it won't be a Q&A, but answering questions posed, then the council and the WPCA, which will sit jointly, will be up here to ask questions. We'll be up here during the public forum, public hearing, but then we'll be able to ask questions of the administration and presenters and representatives from New Haven, WPCA. And we expect that our questions will be answered. So just to get right into it, I'm going to ask that Steve Nocera get ready to give his presentation. If anybody wishes to sign up to speak, that hasn't, it's going to be over here on this table by the camera. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Can everyone hear me? Am I loud enough? No. Sure. All right, I'm going to take that as a yes. Sure. Hello? Okay. How's that? Is it better? Good. Thank you, Councilman, for introducing me. I appreciate that. My name is Stephen Nocera. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Chief Administrative Officer for the town of Stratford. I'm going to be presenting tonight. I look forward to. I just want to say thank you to all the public that came out tonight. It's always nice to see public engagement, especially on matters that affect our town. I do want to start by introducing a few people. We do have the mayor with us tonight, Mayor Harkins. Thank you for being here. We have the executive director of the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority, Cindy Holbrook, right here. His CFO from Greater New Haven, Gabe Varga. Their director of operations, Gary Zarella. From Arcadis, one of our independent consultants, Isabel Schroeder. Steve Siegel from Tithe and Bond, the town's WPCA consultant. And as well, John Staffstrom and Aaron Bowman, both from Pullman Conley, some of the attorneys who have helped negotiate this proposed regionalization. So thank you all for being here, and let's get to it. By way of background, in 2012, after a large sewer use fee increase of $95, the town council asked the administration to look into ways of mitigating such large fee increases going forward. The administration examined a number of these proceedings and determined that regionalization with the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority was the best solution for the town. This presentation is meant to explain why. Some of the options we did look at included outright privatization, having a private utility take it over. That didn't really work, and largely because it was simply it didn't allow for enough control of the town's rate. We felt important. I'm sorry, you can't hear me? Is this better? All right. Sorry, I don't usually do this. I appreciate your cooperation. We felt that it was important that the town have say in its rates and the townspeople, as they currently do, be able to give feedback and input on what the rate is going to be going forward. Privatization did not accomplish that. One of the other options we looked at was a leasing operation, having the town retain the ownership, but a private operator come in and run the facility in order to achieve synergies. This was not a valid option because of our collective bargaining agreements, and it just didn't work for the town. And lastly, we looked at creating a new region with other towns, neighboring our neighbors to see if there was a cooperation available. This was not an option simply because it was too much of a startup to get the legislation, to have another regional entity, to go through all the startup costs and the creation, and then you have the, trying to figure out how to do that. So we looked at that and said, well, why would we go through all of that when we have a region that we can join and wants to partner with us? As an overview of the Town of Stratford Water Pollution Control Authority, I'm sure many of you know that the facility is located on Birdseye Street toward the end. It is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The facility presently is designed to hold 11.5 million gallons of sewage or effluent per day, according to the parameters of Connecticut Department of Energy and, they added a syllable, the Energy and Environmental Protection, as well as the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Just as a quick overview of some of the things that we have that are included in the system, we have 189 miles of sanitary pipes. There are 13 pump stations, and this facility does service all 51,000 people in the town. Just a quick overview of the Greater New Haven facility. You can see that it's made up of 4 constituent municipalities, including New Haven, Hamden, East Haven, and Woodbridge. And I won't go through all the stats, but there are their stats for their various things, including pump stations, plants, etc. In 2005, the region was created under Connecticut General Statute, and it provided that 2 or more towns could collaborate to create a region. As I mentioned, there are 4 currently. If approved, Stratford would be the 5th. One of the most important points to recognize is that Greater New Haven is a similar governmental body that just as Stratford is. They are subject to FOIA laws. They are also subject to all the rules and regulations that our town's WPCA is subject to. Going forward, that's important because, as we mentioned, part of this deal was to ensure that the same things existed under regionalization that we have with our WPCA today. Some of our challenges, and one of the reasons that the council asked the administration to look at this, include the projected rates going forward. I don't know if this slide's hard to see, but I'll go through it a little bit. Our current rate is $400. The proposed rate for FY 15-16 next year, starting in July, is proposed at $460, or a $60 increase. And then going forward, given the capital needs that we have, we're looking at seeing $25 increases year over year after that. Part of the reason for those increases is that while we did expend $62 million on upgrading our plant in 2008, we anticipate an additional $8 million of capital needed over the next 5 years. And that's to address the aging infrastructure, those 189 miles of pipe that we have in the ground that are outliving their useful life capacity. Those $25 rate increases that I mentioned just now represent a 6.7% increase per year per household, year over year for the next 5 years. And that does unfortunately assume the $60 increase that's proposed in this upcoming budget year. This slide is sort of the answer to why do this. If you look at the blue trend line, that is our, if we do nothing. That is if Stratford stays the same, we don't regionalize, and we keep the status quo. These are the rates that the residents could expect to see. If we do regionalize, however, working with New Haven and looking at the synergies and the economies of scale that they can provide, while the fees do increase, you can see that it's a rate stabilization. The difference between these 2 points over 5 years is an estimated $5.4 million saved by our ratepayers in 2020. That's $5.4 million back into your pockets, and or if we do nothing, it's $5.4 million that you folks here will have to expend. We think this is a salient point and one of the main reasons that we're presenting this today. I apologize, I'm just going to move my slides here. Additional benefits to the regionalization. Regionalized entities are better equipped to provide area-wide leadership and in government's framework, program diversity and capacity, and a long-term strategic focus on customers, all at a lower cost. As again, that refers back to the slide that I just mentioned. They're going to be able to have the breadth and depth to do this on a globalized scale, looking at things in a broader perspective, and save money overall. The proposed transfer of the wastewater assets, which are not a core function of government, and what I mean by that, typically your core functions of government, you think of public safety, plowing roads, fighting fires. Having the proposed transfer of the water assets to the region will enable the town to focus more on those core governmental services we've all come to expect. Additional benefits include the removal of wastewater debt. Our current wastewater debt stands at $37 million. That's what's left on our books from the 2008 upgrade of $62 million. That debt represents 10% of the town's bonded indebtedness. This is important because in one transaction, we're able to remove 10% of the town's bonded indebtedness. The rating agencies are going to like this, and it will help our bond rating. Additionally, this will remove liabilities from the town. Those 189 miles of sewer pipes that I mentioned, those are going to be breaking over time, and it's our responsibility currently to fix those and to transform them back to useful pipes. This transaction would alleviate that responsibility. It also removes regulatory compliance and permitting issues. Connecticut Deep is coming out with new regulations every day. One of them, they have these kind of silly nicknames. One of them is CMOM. It basically says that we're going to have to put a bunch of money into our pump stations to upgrade them to capacity and to do certain things. That regulation will no longer be burdened on the Stratford WPCA, as the region will be taking care of those compliances. This transaction will also allow for the town to have a role in the region's governance. We will have 2 members on a regional board that will consist of 11 members, Stratford included, and it's important to note that no municipality maintains a majority on the board. There are no people that have a strict majority on the board. So we will have to work with our partners, and we will be able to say what the rate is going to be going forward. This is important because, as we mentioned, people had told us that if we're going to do something like this, they want to have a role in the governance. They want to say what their sewer rate is going to be. And this transaction will provide for that. In fact, more so than any other utility that you currently pay: water, gas, oil, etc. Additionally, the town will receive compensation for the sale of the assets. We will receive a lump sum payment up front of $16 million. I'm going to walk through the deal terms on a different slide, so I won't go into the detail now. But we will receive a lump sum payment at the outset of the transaction. And additionally, we will receive payments in lieu of taxes. That's pilot for shorthand. We will receive the first year $200,000. The following 10 years, the town will receive $420,000. And then after that 10th year, we will receive $400,000 in perpetuity. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, the value of money gets less over time, and there is a provision to change that in the out years, but just broad strokes, that's going to be the pilot schedule for now, which I should add is very generous. None of the other towns except New Haven's are getting anywhere near that. In fact, we're getting multiple times more than some of the towns, including, for example, Woodbridge. What are we regionalizing? As part of the regionalization, where we're regionalizing is with the town and the Stratford WPCA assets will include the plant, all of the 13 pump stations, the equipment and infrastructure, those pipes and obviously some of the vehicles and things that are needed to run the plant, the real property or the real estate that's related to the WPCA operation, and then all other assets related to the operation of the Stratford WPCA. And the operation in its entirety would be transferred to Greater New Haven. The terms of the regionalization. Stratford will, as I mentioned, receive $16 million as a purchase price. We'll receive that at the outset. We will also get those payments in lieu of taxes that I just mentioned, that $400,000. We will also be able to transfer and be released from that $37 million on our books from clean water debt that's left over from the 2008 upgrade. We will have the 2 seats on the regional board that I mentioned. And additionally, we will retain the ability to collect sewer assessments when people hooked into the system. The reason for this is we paid from the town dollars to put the sewers in. So if someone new wants to hook into the system, it's only fair that the town be paid back for those monies. when you hook into the system, you get assessed over a period of years, and that those payments will be retained by the town of Stratford. The Greater New Haven maintains a separate Stratford user rate based on an annual cost of service study. This is important. One of the things we're going to be doing to ensure that Stratford dollars stay in Stratford is doing an annual cost of service study that's solely based on the expenses that are dealt with here in the town. So that all of your user fees will be funding your user rate in Stratford, not going somewhere else, for example, New Haven or East Haven. They will remain in town. A number of questions have come up about affected employees. We, at the goal of this outset, the mayor instructed us, we do not want to have anyone negatively impacted by this transaction. Our goal is to make sure that no one is negatively impacted. Employees will have three options. Some of them will be offered employment with Greater New Haven, which is also an AFSCME union, which is what the current employees fall under now. Others will remain with the employee of the town, others in a different division of public works, parks, for example. And lastly, those who are of age will be able to retire if they elect to do so, with all of their accrued benefits intact. None of this will be affected in any way. It's also important to note that Greater New Haven maintains similar salaries and benefit packages as the current setup at the Stratford Water Pollution Control Authority. I want to go back 1 second. I forgot to mention, under regionalizations, those employees that are taken on by New Haven will have greater access to opportunities such as training and employment actions to grow their career and be more involved in these sewer operations. The benefits to the users include that the customer rate will be stabilized and lower over the long term than it otherwise would be, and that again refers back to that graph that I showed. We're going to provide for a seamless transition from Stratford WPCA to Greater New Haven. One of the ways we're going to be doing this is the town will be retaining the ability to bill people for 2 years, which will be compensated for. That's important because one of the things we wanted to make sure was that no one's bill came from a different source or a different method. So the town, for the first 2 years, will be continuing the billing so that people see that it's a similar operation and it can be started from the get-go. Additionally, the town's customers will benefit from an increased efficiency through a focus on the environment and water quality issues, as well as integration and upgrading of systems. Again, with the ability and a larger pool to maintain economies of scale, we will be able to have a focus on not only environmental matters, but also efficiencies, which will create the savings that I mentioned earlier. The governance structure will provide for transparency and fair and equitable rates for all customers. One of the things I want to reference here is that we did our due diligence. We called the other towns to make sure that this was something that they enjoyed being involved in, not something that they regretted later. We found out, and I'm sure many of you read in the Stratford Star recently, that many of the other towns love this experience. They think this is, as the mayor of Hamden put it, a home run for his town. And we'll have copies of that article if anyone wants it. Additionally, as I mentioned, this has been in existence since 2005. This region has existed for 10 years, and it has worked well and performed great for a decade. I think that's a pretty important point. Lastly, Greater New Haven's ability to fund capital projects will provide for not only improved service, but increased water and environmental protection for our watershed. This is a really important point. We want to make sure that we all live here, we all grow up here, that our environment's protected and maintained to the level it is now, if not better. And building off of that, I wanted to go into some more environmental benefits. The Greater New Haven's East Shore plant, as well as Stratford WPCA's plant, both discharge into the Long Island Sound. So there's a synergy here that means that we'll be able to focus more on coordinated environmental efforts. Additionally, having one larger environmentally focused entity will provide for increased scrutiny and greater fairness in terms of regional environmental protectionism. The Greater New Haven has in-house staff that are equipped to manage environmental and regulatory issues and can do so with the economy of scale that is unachievable by Stratford alone. And they have a centralized permitting system which will help create those synergies. All the revenues, as I've mentioned before, that have derived from Stratford will go directly to benefit Stratford users and maintain and improve the system and enhance Stratford's environment. Lastly, under regionalization, the first capital project that we endeavor as a regionalized entity will be available to have an extra 5% clean water fund from the Connecticut Deep to go into that project. Again, with greater access to funding will come the ability to invest in Stratford's environment. And I think it's important to recognize that if Connecticut Deep is monetarily incentivizing people to do these regionalizations with providing grant dollars, that speaks to how much they are in favor of regionalized water authorities. Next, the process. Oh, yes. The process under which we contemplated this transaction and negotiated it were conducted with the utmost concern of Stratford and its residents. Some of the things that we did to ensure that the residents are protected in this endeavor were to have the cost of service study performed by an independent consultant, namely Arcadis, who's here to speak today. And we've involved numerous town departments, including the WPCA itself, Public Works, Finance, my office, purchasing, engineering. In fact, I'm hard-pressed to find a department that didn't have a say in this, and that was important. We wanted to vet this out as best we can with our own experts that are in-house. We also hired an expert consultant who's an expert in the wastewater pollution control field. His name is Stephen Kellogg, and while he couldn't be here tonight, I bring him up because it's important to reference that Mr. Kellogg is a 25-year resident of Stratford who has over 40 years in this field. He did submit for the council's purview a record for the statement, and I thought I'd read a couple of the points that he mentions in it. He states, and I'm quoting, "I completely concur with the decision by Stratford to become a part of the regional wastewater treatment system. Regionalization brings numerous advantages to the town, including a more stable rate, economies of scale in operations, purchasing, as well as shared expertise." Lastly, he states, "The purchase price paid for the assets, along with the assumption of the debt, represents, in my opinion, a very good deal for the town of Stratford." And lastly, we hired expert independent counsel to help us negotiate this transaction. One of the reasons we did this was to provide for any conceptual agreements that we had with Greater New Haven be reflected appropriately in the asset purchase agreement, which is available online and is posted on the town's website. Oh, and I should mention, I'm sorry. As I mentioned before, our expert legal counsel is John Sapstrom and Aaron Bowman from Pullman and Conlon. Lastly, I wanted to go through a couple of commonly asked questions and provide the actual answers to them. The first question is, does the state support regionalization? The answer is yes. As I alluded to earlier, the Connecticut Deep supports this transaction. In fact, the existence of Greater New Haven as a regional entity since 2005 is not only proof, but it's precedent of this. Number two, will Stratford residents pay the debt of New Haven or other towns, giving Stratford an even greater debt load? The answer is no, absolutely not. In fact, based on the terms of the transaction, the Stratford ratepayer will not share in the debts of other participating towns and will have a separate user rate for Stratford costs alone. This transaction, as I mentioned before, will decrease our town's bonded indebtedness by 10%. Anyone saying anything else is inaccurate. True story. Will my home be foreclosed on if I don't make my sewer payments? The answer is possibly. If you don't pay your sewer payments, just as now, with the Stratford Water Pollution Control Authority, you may be foreclosed on. That's true today under status quo. If no regionalization happens, it's true then, and it's also true under regionalization. It's important to know that the idea of foreclosure is not meant to take people's homes. It's an enforcement action. If you don't pay and you make restitution, those proceedings stop and you retain your home. Is this privatization? No. Regionalization is completely different from privatization. In fact, legally speaking, Greater New Haven is another governmental authority. They're subject to FOI, they're subject to all of the transparency requirements that the town of Stratford, as well as the Stratford WPCA, are subject to in the current. So this is completely different. Greater New Haven has no corporate interests, they have no stockholders, they are not a corporation. And as I mentioned before, we did look at, is privatization something we should be looking at? And the answer came out invariably, no, we should not. Not lastly. What controls will there be over the Stratford user rate? The Stratford user rate will be determined, as I mentioned before, by the independent cost analysis, which will show what does it cost to run the Stratford plant, how many users do we have, and what should the rate be. That's all it's going to reflect, as it does now. The Stratford user rate will be approved by the board, which we will have 2 seats on and a say in. And as I mentioned before, it's more of a say than you're going to have in any other utility vote that you get from the voters. Lastly, and I think this is the great question, Why are you selling a facility when it was upgraded in 2008? Or really, why do this? Why do this at all? Why think about it? Why contemplate it? And the answer is that while the WPCA plant was upgraded in 2008, we did not upgrade the infrastructure, those 189 miles of pipes. Interestingly enough, 50% of them are as old as 40 or 60 years. The average useful life of a sewer is 50 years. So we're going to start seeing our infrastructure be degraded and erode and break down, and we're going to have to start paying to replace it. And that's one of the main drivers of why sewer rates keep going up every year. This regionalization answers that and achieves the savings and allows us to do it at a lesser cost to the ratepayers, i.e. you folks in this room. That's all I have for this evening. I know Councilman Kubik is going to be asking people to speak, and we'll go from there. So I thank you all for your time, your patience, and your cooperation. I'll also turn the lights back on for you.
We're going to start the local hearing.
Changed chairman when they became the WPCA. The same people.
Okay, we're done. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Sorry. Okay, we're going to commence the public hearing portion of this at 6:37 p.m. And each speaker has up to 5 minutes to speak regarding the matter at hand. So it's about what's been in the public notice, which is public hearing on the proposed sale of assets of Stratford Water Pollution Control Authority to Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control. To Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control, the asset purchase agreement related to the sale of the assets to New Haven WPCA, buying among New Haven WPCA as buyer, and each of the town of Stratford and Stratford Water Pollution Control Authority as sellers. The proposed sale to Greater New Haven WPCA of certain real property owned by the town of Stratford and used in connection with the Stratford WPCA, and proposed granting to the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority of easements rights of way to certain real property owned by the town of Stratford and used in conjunction with the Stratford WPCA. So this first speaker on the list is George Mulligan. And when you come to speak, please state your name and address for the record. Mr. Mulligan.
George Mulligan, 429 Housatonic Avenue, Stratford, Connecticut. In sales, there's such a thing as actual value and also perceived value. The salesman represents the town or the regional authority or lawyers or consultants. They're all paid. Let me ask you people in the front row, if I gave you $100 million, would you give me $11 million? Well, that's the value of the land and equipment. This is for the land and equipment, $100 million, over $100 million. And you're being very generous to give us a whole $11 million. Thank you very much. You're also going to pay us, $200,000 this year and $420,000 to $400,000 afterwards, when we're getting $1 million a year in different revenues. Between the nitrates and the other revenues, that's my understanding, we're getting in $1 million this year. And you're willing to pay us $200,000 and $400,000. And you're willing to take the $37 million of the remaining debt, but who's going to pay for it? Those people are going to be billed. You're not going to just absorb that and pay it out of your own pockets, are you? Is Pullman and Conley, have you put out any information to show us that, to protect us, that we're not going to be, that anything that they...
Mr. Mulligan, please address the WPCA and the town council.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I had the floor. I thought I had the floor.
You're supposed to be
I thought I had...
This is a public forum. Please address the town council
You're
and the
taking my time,
WPCA.
Mr.
Taking up his time.
You're
Let him
not
talk.
supposed to interrupt me, please.
Don't interrupt nobody. Let him talk. Got 5
There's
minutes.
so much
5
money
minutes.
involved.
Okay, please be respectful. I'm asking him to address the, this is a,
But you're talking on top end. Let him talk.
Let him talk.
Okay, all right, let me ask you this question. If, whether it's $61 million or $100 million, and we're only getting $11 million of it, there's a difference between $50 and $90 million. Is there room for kickbacks, bribes, political donations, or finder's fees? Really, I mean, that's an absurd amount of money. Who in the world would give, why would I give you $100 million and you only pay me 11? And you're giving me less money per year than you can take in. Now the other thing is that the CAO, the police chief, the registrars, and other people all got pay raises of double-digit last year. Is that money coming from the money that you're going to get from the sewer fees, which by law can't be commingled? Under Section 7-267, use of funds of the Connecticut General Statutes, you may not commingle funds. Isn't that right, Pullman and Conley? Isn't that Connecticut General Statute? High crimes and misdemeanors is abuse of assets. Isn't that right? That's a constitutional violation. Aren't there federal laws against abuse of misuse of property? You people at the town council have been putting together things about eminent domain. You've been taking taxes, raising taxes, paying money off to the police and fire. The attorney's fees have been up 1,000% since 1998. And the sewer fee is just, a sewer deal is just another example of political theft. Who's making the money? Who gains? Are any of you getting $100,000 or $200,000 or $1 million? Are any of you getting that money? If you're not, then why are you putting your name on it when the lawyers and the other people are going to be making all the money? I can't understand how you can even consider this deal as being viable.
George, you have 1 minute left.
Thank you for interrupting me again. We could have used the money, some of the sewer plant to get rid of some of the rainmark waste. Yes, there's $37 million, represents 10% of the bond debt, but you people bonded $162 million for pension funds, and there was a $95 million bond in 1998. The repayment on that was $210 million. The repayment for the other one is $320 million, over $500 million for pensions, and there's going to be more bonds. And yes, this is a 10% reduction against the waste that you created by throwing money at your political cronies. The cops protect you, the lawyers protect you.
George, please
protect
conclude.
them.
Thank you.
This is only in America.
Next speaker is Barbara Heinrich. or Heinrich.
Good evening. I'm Barbara Heinrich. I live at 91 College Street.
Can't hear you.
How about this? Louder? Very close. Okay, how's that?
Good.
Okay.
Pull the microphone to you.
Huh?
Pull towards you.
Oh, come on. How's that?
Great.
I would like to respectfully address the town council and the WPCA group. According to Dennis Greasy of the DEEP, there are presently 97 municipal and private water treatment facilities in Connecticut, and their maintenance and operation is considered a core function of the municipality. And of the 97, there are a half dozen of these municipalities that provide electric and water utilities that are owned by their respective town and run by the governing body. As a municipal utility, their only obligation is to the customers in their community, as it should be in Stratford in regards to our services, specifically the water treatment plant. These towns, Groton Public Utilities, municipally owned and operated, provides electric and water to 40,000 consumers, residential, business, and the subbase. Jewett City, locally owned, not-for-profit, provides electric and wastewater service to their community, have been in existence since 1897, and serves 3,500 residential and commercial customers. South Norwalk Electric and Water independently operates their facility, serves 9,000 customers with water throughout sections of South Norwalk, East Norwalk, West Norwalk, Rowayton, Silvermine, and Wilton. And in addition, serve 5,000 customers with electric. The third taxing district of Norwalk, which is in East Norwalk, serves 3,800 residential and commercial customers. Wallingford serves approximately 41,000, and they also have a mayor-council form of government. Norwich provides electricity, natural gas, water, and sewer services to 22,000 residential and commercial customers. These entities are successful, less expensive than the going rate by, say, for example, UI or the water company, and none of them are being shed by their administration to boost their bottom line or cover deficits. I can only assume that their success can be attributed to a more competent administration than we presently are operating under. I believe that we have not had enough information for really anyone in the general public, read voters here, to make up our mind, because information has been short-sighted and not forthcoming. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Roseanne Neary. We're having some trouble with this.
Yeah, it's on now, it was off. My name is Roseanne Neary, I reside at 125 Home Street. I've been a resident of Stratford for 43 years. If after going forward with the deal with G&H, functioning as a quasi-public utility, how will you assure me that our sewage system won't function like our electric or water utilities with poor maintenance and no rate stability? We will have 2 seats on a 9-seat panel for the rates. That sounds like we're outnumbered. So no matter what happens, how are we going to be promised that our rates won't go through the roof? Why would New Haven care about Stratford? We also have a facility that is a very environmentally safe facility, environmentally friendly. That can't be said about G&H. I thank you to reconsider the sale of this property. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Harold Watson.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Harold Watson. I live at 343 Freeman Avenue. You can't hear me at all? Good evening. My name is Harold Watson. Better? Hello? Better? Okay. Hi, my name is Harold Watson. I live at 343 Freeman Avenue. I've also been working with a group of citizens called Waste Treatment Plant Get Answers on Facebook. If anybody's interested, our computer's in the back, and you can actually sign up before the end of the evening. I'm bringing tonight questions from other citizens in town who couldn't make it. So I just want to actually run through a couple of them. The questions to our council members primarily, and I noticed that a couple of our council members actually came to our website to see what kind of questions the citizens of this town were asking. I really appreciate that. It is good to see. That is something I think is terribly missing in this town. And if we have anything that we should hold our heads in shame, it should be that there is not enough of you guys talking to the citizens of this town, finding out what we think. So I have a couple questions here that have come from people, average people, that I'd like to read to you. Who will look out for the property owners if eminent domain authority is used by the G&H, Greater New Haven? Not our town council, but by them, when they start using eminent domain on us. How are we encouraging business growth with new requirements that every commercial operation pay for new engineering tests for new usage rates? What will establishments be paying? I've been speaking to restaurants in town. They understand that some of their standards are changing, but no one in this town has talked to them about what it's going to cost them doing business 3 years out in this town when they have to pay for their sewage rates. Where in this agreement that you have posted on your website, finally, is the section that gives control in our ability for new sewer hookups or expansion when it clearly states that G&H does not surrender its final ruling authority? Everything in the contract that I read about that has been excluded for Stratford, there is a clause in the contract that I read that states that all of these go away after 36 months. So all of your talk about saying our fees are going to be such and such and such, those fees might be that way for the next 3 years, but as evidenced by the experience of the other towns of Greater New Haven, they then discovered they had no say in it. So they were faced with whatever was the imperative of Greater New Haven in terms of their budget. If you look at Greater New Haven's authority, it does not have the authority to individually give town its own metered rates. Their authority says we will give everybody the same rate, that everybody, every customer will be treated the same. So I'd like to see in the contract where it states that we are going to be the exception. Trumbull, here's another one. Trumbull is paying over $700 a year for sewers right now. Have we addressed the possibility of their being connected to our system and us controlling that with our system? Have we also addressed the possibility that once Greater New Haven buys us, they're going to find it profitable to connect Trumbull to our system, using up our capacity, or further, expanding our systems for their capacity, so that our lovely waterfront then has a giant, huge facility like the one that New Haven has. So instead of 29,000 customers, we're going to end up with 45,000 customers pumping out, what, a quarter of a mile from downtown? I don't know how redevelopment's going to work then. Has the council compared waste rates for towns all over Connecticut? How do you support the sales of Stratford's current rates are in line with other towns, and in some cases a bargain?
Mr. Watson, please conclude.
Okay, for your purposes, these questions are all up on our website, on our Facebook page. I hope that you as council members will start fulfilling your responsibility to the citizens of this town and start asking and answering questions. There are many questions.
Thank you. Next speaker is Bruce Carr.
Oh, you are a...
Bruce Carr, you're taking
Did I say anything disrespectful to you?
No, you did not.
Okay, then can't you at least be civil to me?
Mr. Carr, please sit your seat. Your time's running.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Carr. I live at 343 Freeman Avenue. Can't hear you. My name is Bruce Carr. I live at 343 Freeman Avenue. Please answer the following question. What easements are included in the Greater New Haven Agreement? And specifically, please explain the requirements that Stratford secure new rights-of-way to the WPCA, and that it also ensure that there's no legal hindrance to land use. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mark Giuliano.
Yes, hello, good evening. Can you hear me? My name is Mark Giuliano. I reside at 78 Kathleen Drive. I have a question. Do the required easements include any parkland or greenway land? And if so, were they any convenience required through the funding? Also, I've worked on this plant. I've done most of the upgrades over there. So why would we want to get rid of this plant? How come we cannot make this plant worth money for us? In 2014 and the years prior to that, since I came here and saw this meeting with this video or whatever, 189 miles of pipe. Has anybody done any sewer work last year, 2014, 2013, 2012? I mean, you had some money. All of a sudden now it's a pipe issue in the road. You got a state-of-the-art plant, well, let's do the road. That's an easy fix. You don't have to be a rocket scientist for that, or a bottle rocket scientist. Okay, the other issue is, I think that'll be enough for now. I just want to thank a lot of the people for the great questions, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Next speaker is Robert Gabris.
Can you turn off the lights, please? Turn up the lights.
Yeah, we've got some folks here that may know how to do it. If someone can please turn up the lights, please do.
My name is Robert Gabris. I live at 75 Newtown Avenue, Stratford.
You have to speak into the microphone. Make sure it's on.
Better? No? Better? Okay. Mayor John Harkins would like to see the town of Stratford join the Greater New Haven Pollution Control Authority. The authority was created in 2005 when New Haven, East Haven, Woodbridge, and Hamden passed an ordinance at the time, and to this day, the only town with a sewage treatment facility is New Haven. All available facts lead to an inescapable conclusion, which is that the Pollution Control Authority is operating an infrastructure that is old and seriously overutilized. As Stratford joins this group, the town will clearly be forced to give its relatively modern and robust facility to a group that desperately needs them. And then the return for Stratford would be dubious indeed. First, let's look at the facts about the New Haven Group facilities. New Haven's lone plant is the East Shore plant. It has a capacity to treat 40 million gallons per day, and it runs an average of 83% of its full capacity, according to the Pollution Control Authority's own website. Now, the East Shore plant must treat both sewage and stormwater runoff. If 2 storms per year cases show a storm has a 50% chance of happening, only 45% of wastewater is treated and the rest flows untreated into local bodies of water. The age of the sewer lines are also a problem. All told, the Pollution Control Authority operates some 550 miles of sewer lines. They have an average age of these lines as follows: New Haven 78 years, Hamden 75 years, East Haven 40 years, Woodbridge 60 years. When wastewater enters New Haven's lone treatment plant, the East Shore Water Pollution Abatement Facility liquid is removed from the affluent and leaves an end product called a cake. These cakes are burned in an incinerator, which releases a variety of compounds into the atmosphere, which has been tied to adverse health effects of the people living near the incinerator. The plant's operator is a for-profit company called Singro, which is based in Baltimore, Maryland. It has been stated that Singro, which operates the plant, processes sludge from outside the regions, which he is also subject to outside waste at our plant, with all the profits going to Singro. In 2005, New Haven Board of Aldermen passed a non-binding resolution that requests that the Pollution Control Authority stop processing sewage for outside municipalities and that they replace the cake incineration with better technology by 2015. However, nothing came of the resolution by the Pollution Control Authority. It is important to note that the Pollution Control Authority permit to treat waste expires on September 30th. It is my belief that the pressure being exerted on Stratford to join the Pollution Control Authority stems at least in part from the fact that the Stratford's treatment plant could help them get their permit renewed. Let's take just a moment to look at what Stratford would get. In exchange for a modern treatment facility and relatively new infrastructure, we were to join the Pollution Control Authority. First, the controlling board of the authority currently has a total of 9 seats. New Haven has 4 seats, East Haven has 2 seats, Hamden has 2 seats, Woodbridge has 1 seat, and Stratford would get 2 seats. This does not give us much to say. To me, it sounds like the people of Stratford are giving a lot for very little. To make matters worse, there was foreclosure frenzy in New Haven from the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority for sewer bills. In 2012, about 150 foreclosures were for as low as $793 were initiated of property owners, and now for who more than $1,000 ago. New Haven has limited options because it spun off to a new suburban-dominated entity for a one-time cash to fill a budget hole. Figures provided by the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority for 150 as of June 22nd, 2012, 97, 2011, 75, and 2010, 45, and 2009. Did the Stratford attorneys really do his homework on this plan? Stratford's treatment plan is in great shape, both physically and financially. Thanks to the money from the Federal Clean Water Act in the 1970s, the plant saw major improvements which were almost entirely funded by the federal government. Just 6 years ago, the Stratford facility was upgraded at a cost of $61 million. Of this cost, $46 million was bonded. So far, the town has paid off $9 million of the bond, and the plant has a reserve fund of $5.6 million.
Mr. Gabers, please conclude. No, sir. It doesn't work that way.
It don't work that way? Well, I'll tell you what. I'll conclude now.
Thank you.
I made copies of all of this for you people to read. There's questions on it for you to answer at your public forum.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Steve Augustus.
name's Steve Roguskas. I live at 96 Sutton Avenue. Mr. Nacero, how's that?
Good.
Okay. Mr. Nacero said that the reason for the sale, and he went through a whole bunch of reasons, but let's be honest, if there wasn't a budget deficit to close from last year and a looming budget deficit this year, this wouldn't be happening. He mentions the infrastructure, the pipe system, the aging sewer pipes as a reason for doing this. But those pipes are still going to age. Those pipes are still going to have to be replaced and repaired. And if Stratford's money stays in Stratford, Stratford's going to be paying for that. It's not like Greater New Haven's going to say, oh, we'll take care of it, don't worry about it. We still have to pay for it. Maybe the town doesn't, but the town people do. You know, there was a lot of talk about the other members of the regional authority, and they're all in very different positions than Stratford. All of them were already dependent on New Haven for having their wastewater treated. None of them had their own facilities. They had pump stations. I mean, of course, Woodbridge is paying significantly less in pilot fees than we do. They've got, what, 2 pumping stations? We've got a lot more that we should be getting paid for. And our pilot money that we'll be bringing in under this plan is a lot less than the WPCA is currently paying to the town, between the land use fees, the 300 grand for administrative fees, which is pretty amazing, and the credits that they get from the state for the clean water that they put into the Housatonic River and the Long Island Sound. New Haven has gotten fined for the dirty water that they put out. Why do we want to tie in with them? How is there anything good about that? Mr. Nacero talked about the projected rates. He gave nothing that was based on. I mean, how do you say that the rates go up because we have to pay more for fixing the pipes? So it's a random number every year, it would seem. And how do we know what the regional authority will say, will charge us? As we heard earlier, there's a 36-month period that's guaranteed under the current plan, not up to 2020. I don't know about the whole thing. I've seen several places where we would be contributing to paying for the various interests that the authority would be accruing. We certainly would be paying the interest on the debt that they're taking from Stratford. So although that money comes off of the town's budget, again, the people of Stratford continue to pay for it. And finally, if this is a quasi-governmental agency, supposedly this isn't something the government handles, so that doesn't make any sense. It should be something the government handles. It should be something that Stratford handles. Clean wastewater is public safety, and it's something that the town should take care of.
Thank you. Next speaker is Terry Masters.
Town hall one better. You turned it off. Terry Masters, 855 Wilcoxon Avenue here in Stratford. What we have, our sewer plant is a gem. It may sound strange to say that the poop plant is one of the best things this town has going for it, but it's true. This plant has been upgraded. The effluent that goes out into the sound is 97 to 98% pure, probably better than the water we're drinking out of the tap. This is a gem. We have a separate storm drain system from the wastewater, from the sewage. We have not been fined for putting raw sewage or undertreated sewage into the sound. Everybody else on coastal Fairfield County in these last storms has been hit, not Stratford. We have 16 people, only 16 people, running the state-of-the-art facility 24/7. And, excuse me, I don't think they're being taken care of by this plan. They're being thrown under the bus.
And I think the people who work, I wish they could stand up and we could just applaud them because they have been doing a phenomenal job.
Yes.
We have a phenomenal plant. And kudos to you all. These are the guys that are keeping our town clean. These are the guys that are keeping our water safe. These are guys, 16 people, 24/7, 365.
That's right.
Guess what Greater New Haven is going to do? Oh, we get 7 more employees, but oh, wait a minute, they're not really employees. They're outsourced from wonderful Synagro at a cost going up to about $1 million a year. How is that efficient? How is, and then I look at the other things, the debt. Currently, we are paying through our rates, and it's not a town payment. This is what we pay. We pay, by law, whatever the sewer fees are, we pay, and those fees go for the expenses of the plant. We pay currently about $740K a year in debt servicing for that bond. Oops, what happens to that? First year under Greater New Haven's budget, it's now doubled, and it keeps going up. Not only is it doubled, but the rate goes up. Is this something like a leveraged buyout? So now we're paying Greater New Haven for their expense in buying us? It's, it would be nice to get some answers on that. Basically, yes, the sewage plant is town business. That's what a town government is about. Public safety, yes, but we need more than a police department. Public safety means that we have a clean place to live, our water is clean, we're not dirtying our environment, and we're taking care of the people in town. I urge you to really, we're liable for the actions. If there's been, any misappropriations or misuse of funds or funds not being released, i.e. From the last WPCA meeting, to be in compliance with the deep order, those funds should be released, not waiting for the sale to go through. That's what's been happening for the past few years. That's putting us in danger. That is not taking care of town business. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Sonia Devitt.
Good evening. Sonia Devitt, 545 Hilltop Drive in Stratford. I've been looking at the field card, the assessor's field card for the wastewater treatment plant, the land, etc. The appraised parcel value for that piece of land is $19,103,100. Why would we sell it for only $11 million, which is, or I was told this evening by Mr. Nacera, $16 million. I don't know why the discrepancy in figures, unless it has to do with the reserve fund of some sort. But at any rate, it is significantly below the appraised value of the plant and land itself. Secondly, I've been looking through the Arcadis report on regionalization with Greater New Haven. We are now spending, I'm going to give the now figures in this year's budget in Stratford, and then I'm going to give the numbers projected for next year for Stratford under Greater New Haven. Safety equipment, this year $3,400, next year nothing. Other materials, $21,000, next year nothing. Lab maintenance, this year $3,000, next year nothing. Equipment services, this year $13 million, next year nothing. Pump station maintenance, we have 13 of them. This year, the budget is $20,000. Next year, nothing. Auto maintenance, $8,500 this year. Next year, under Greater New Haven, $100,000? Are we going to pay for all of New Haven's vehicles? Plant maintenance, this year, $30,000. Next year, nothing. Then there's this Synagro company that's going to manage everything, apparently, that New Haven Water Pollution Authority contracts all of their stuff out to. Synagro, of course, this year in our budget, there's nothing, but next year it will cost, the budget for Stratford, the part that's apportioned to Stratford, is $550,000 in Stratford's budget next year.
Oh, yeah, they're making big
And
bucks.
then we're
Corporate
talking
America.
capital outlay reserves. Right now, we're paying $638,000, zero next year. Yes, that sounds like a nice plus. Capital outlay this year is budgeted for $738,000, and next year, $50,000. I don't think it sounds to me like Stratford's getting a very good deal on this. The current debt service of $3 million plus will remain and go up in the budget. The existing interest payments of $754,659 this year will double in the first 2 years after the transfer. How is this good for Stratford? And the last thing I'd like to say is, with no more than 2 persons on the representatives on the board, and I can appreciate at least we are represented, but in terms of clout, unless they are, somehow we have a leverage over them because we have the good plant, I don't see that we will have proportionally much more influence on their board than the minority representation currently on our town council has.
Next speaker is Lisa Kasich.
My name is Lisa Kasak. I live at 50 Birdseye Street in Stratford. I hope I can see my notes. My comments are more comments than they are questions. The first one is, why was there a change in venue? I think that most of these people, or if not all of them, could fit into the town council or maybe standing in the back. And why was the time changed from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock? Where was the notification? I imagine there was a notification in public notices, but other than that, there was a tiny little notice in last Thursday's Stratford Star. I went to town hall this morning. There were no notices on the 4 doors into town hall that said where the meeting was or what time it was. I saw the town clerk, and she went into the files and took out the official notification of the meeting and made 4 copies of it, and I helped her scotch tape them onto the 4 doors into town hall. Excuse me. There is a report that was emailed to me, and it's, if I can see what it says, Regionalization of Town of Stratford Water Pollution Control Authority with the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority, Executive Summary. The purpose of this was to evaluate the potential benefits and risks of this opportunity the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority hired a consultant to conduct a preliminary feasibility analysis. These are all benefits. There's no risks here at all. The only risks I've heard are for the people who spoke this evening. This whole report is just benefits. I think that's all. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Next speaker is Stan Silverstein.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it? Hello?
Yes.
My name is Stan Silverstein. I live at 1770 Main Street in Stratford. I've heard a lot of questions here. I think they all deserve answers. And somehow or other, one of the other ones that I would like to ask is this. Why did not the towns that are contiguous to New Haven join with them? Why is not a Milford? Why Stratford, nothing in between, and then we join New Haven? It does not make sense to me. And with that, I would, let it go, keep it quiet, and answer the questions that were asked. And there were a lot of them. So I would not even attempt to address any other questions other than to repeat what I heard tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Neil Sherman.
My name is Neil Sherman. I reside at 116 Blakeman Place here in Stratford. I've been living in this community for more than 25 years. More than 25 years. Each year, you've asked me, all the people in this room, to fund the Water Pollution Control Authority. Now, that doesn't mean anything. We bought it. It's ours. Why should we give it away? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Thomas Fay.
Thomas Fay, 20 Max Harbor Court. Couple questions. I've been following this in the newspaper and the articles and on the website, and I haven't seen the engineering analysis, the independent study of a disinterested third party. You wouldn't be able to get a mortgage from a bank without an appraisal. If you were buying my house, they certainly wouldn't take my appraisal. They'd go to someone who had no skin in the game and was disinterested. I haven't seen it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'd like to have it published so we could take a look at it. The other thing I wonder is why the rush? And the third thing is this business about the town's indebtedness. We're indebted. What you're asking us to do is a balance transfer, like you would do on your credit card. And I don't think any of you would transfer a balance from a lower rate credit card to a higher rate credit card. And I think that's what you're asking us to do.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ann Eisinger.
Good evening. My name is Ann Eisinger. I live at 90 Eaton Street in Stratford, and I vote in the 5th District. I believe that following the public questions, there will be a further presentation in which they will be trying to answer our questions. And the things that I would like to have addressed is the financial part of it. And I'm wondering where the New Haven is getting all this money that they're promising us. What use are they going to make of our sewer system that they can make the money in order to send it back to us? It seems to me that this is something that's going to be billed to the ratepayers. The money that they're going to give us, they're going to charge the ratepayers. So in fact, we are paying for it twice. We've already reduced the 61 million by 24 million. over the years. And if the New Haven continues to pay those annual amounts that they have promised, it will take them 32 years to pay off that 24 million. And where are they getting the 11 million that they're going to supposedly put up front? If they don't put it up front, it will take them 60 years to pay us back for our investment. And I also don't understand when they say they're going to take over the 37 million debt. I don't know, you know, what are they putting up to assure us that they will pay that? If they default on that, what happens to our sewer plants? Is it, I don't know. That's one of my questions. And I think that's about all that I could put to them that they might cover in their presentation. The other thing that Mr. Nocera said was that there was going to be a 6.5% charge to the ratepayers to meet capital needs. And are those capital needs, what are they? Are they money that we have to pay? What capital needs do we have? That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Andy Byrne.
My name is Andy Byrne. I live at 848 Judson Place in Stratford. And I spoke at a previous meeting against the sale, saying that I believe it's a short-sighted solution, budget solution, with long-term devastating consequences, and I still feel that way. And to that point, my question is, the contract says that Stratford, after 3 years, will be under a private contractor for servicing the wastewater plant, repairs, and maintenance. How will we control these costs and determine their schedule? Is this privatization? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Margaret Barnish.
Good evening. My name is Peggy Barnish. I live at 65 Long Branch Avenue here in Stratford. And actually, I would like to personalize this a little bit. Peter, your family for about 3 generations now has worked very hard to build an iconic restaurant. Do you and your family really want to sell it off and have only 2 votes left and somebody can tell you how to maintain it or how to let it grow and not leave it to your children at all? How about Stephanie? You've worked hard to build your own company. Do you really want to sell it off to somebody now? Have only a minimal number of votes left to see what happens to your company or where it's going to go or who you want to leave it to? Our attorney here, I don't know if you're part of a partnership, but if so, would you or your partners want to sell off your corporation to have less vote than the attorneys that buy it? I don't know what other businesses people are in here, so I can't ask them specifically, except we have a teacher here. And that's the one place I might agree with the regionalization. Maybe Stratford schools need to regionalize so they can spend more time in remedial reading and less time in sports. But that's another whole problem, and I probably should have avoided that. But I really think you need to think about it personally. Would you personally do this with your own assets, with your house? Would you sell your house to somebody else in the hopes they would let you live there if you had a minimal vote, and if you could stay, or what you could do to the house while you were there? I really have trouble understanding what the thought process is here. And I do disagree with number 6 that says we're selling this because it's a better deal. I think if you look back over the past year, almost everybody who's been following the political process understands that the budget was not balanced, and that this is one of the ways to balance the budget, but you're doing it on our backs. You're doing it on our backs. And if an outside outside firm was truly hired to give some sort of non-biased estimate on what we should be doing, I'd like to know, first of all, who they really are, who knew them, who hired them, and how much we're paying them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Diane Elias.
Am I on? My name is Diane Elias. Oh, okay, thank you. My name is Diane Elias. I live at 95 Dorsey Street. I vote in the 7th District. And it's a relatively simple question. Oh, this has been very educational tonight. We're hearing about an $11 million offer for the system. I assume an additional $5 million for the property, which I just learned is assessed at $19 million. Kind of interesting. How was this assessment arrived at for Stratford? And is this Greater New Haven's assessment, and we're just buying it, or what? I mean, this seems like quite a bargain for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is William Boyd.
Hi, I'm William Boyd. I'm at 681 Sedgwick Avenue. I'm represented by Stephanie Phillips here, doing a great job. I'd first like to say, piggybacking on what Peggy was saying, why would we sell our own house and then rent from the new owner? That's what I feel like we're doing here. And I took a couple of notes because we saw the presentation tonight for the first thing, but for the first time. And the thing I feel most of all about this proposed sale of this water treatment plant is there has been no full disclosure. Things have been under cloak and dagger, meetings have been moved, times have been changed, venues have been changed, and we seem to be getting information tonight, and there's been no information along the way other than that it was a good deal. A lot of things they were saying tonight, valuation of properties. They evaluate the property, the sewer treatment plant, they seem to be devalued. I live in Stratford, I've been here for 10 years. I've never seen once my property be devalued. It's always been overvalued, but for some reason now, the property we own is now devalued. Somehow that doesn't make sense. Second of all, clearly it's a question, who will pay for the pipes if this proposed sale goes through, which I'm against? Who will pay for those 500 plus so mile of pipes when they need to be replaced? Is that a town of Stratford fee, or is that a fee for the proposed Greater New Haven regional sewer plant? Thirdly, you spoke about Hamden, how it's a home run for them. Am I to understand Hamden does not have a sewer treatment plant? Is that correct? So of course it's a home run. They don't have something, now they have something. Of course it's a home run, now they don't. So to me, I guess with the young man here doing the presentation, it's misleading. You're not fully disclosing why someone would be for it. You're just saying they're for it, but you're not fully disclosing. Again, back to full disclosure. There's a couple people that have done an excellent job in terms of keeping us up to date on this, Terry Masters and her team and Steve. And without them and a few others, I don't know if we'd even be standing here at this meeting challenging this proposed sale. So I just think going forward, a one-time lump sum payment to close a budget loophole to sell our future to a region sewer treatment regional plant that's not connected to Stratford, as the other young man said, it leaps over Milford, so they don't share any type of infrastructure with us. I think that short-term gain would be a long-term loss. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Donald Petrunas.
Is this working? Let's try it this way. Is that better? Okay. My name is Donald Petrunas. I live at 95 Dorsey Street, 7th District. And I guess I'm a little confused, which I usually am because that's my nature. Somehow or another, through the magic of, I guess, synergy, we're going to give our current facility over to New Haven Group. And I have to assume that the current board is trying to do the best they can to optimize the facility and minimize the cost. So therefore, I have to assume that the projection that we saw where Stratford is saying our rates are going to go up to $560, but Greater New Haven is not going up that much. But somehow or another, Greater New Haven is going to pretty much keep our people, because that's what one of the slides said. They're going to maintain the same capital structure that we have, plus some, because they're going to get a bonus from another organization of 5%. They're going to assume our debt, which we currently have, plus on top of that, they're going to pay us $11 million. They're going to do all this magic, and somehow or another, they can decrease the rates or not increase them as much as we have to, but we can't do it. So I guess I'm confused. They pay more money. Supposedly, they give us the same service, if not better. Okay? They're not going to increase the waste processing, or are they? Maybe they are, because as far as I see it, from the standard accounting practice, one way of reducing costs or reducing fees that you have to pay is by increasing the number of people that you get to pay it. So are they going to increase the number of processing stuff that goes through our facility and have more people pay? Like Trumbull? Like somebody else? Or ship it down from New Haven? I don't know what they're going to do. But somehow or another, the numbers don't work. And lower the rates, unless our board, that's currently running the WPCA, should be replaced and come up with a better budget.
Next speaker is Saber Burke. Thank you. Next speaker is Orna Rawls.
Orna Rawls, 768 Jackson Place. Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. The PowerPoint presentation was phenomenal. And if it was all true and nothing but the truth and all the truth, I think we should all crawl to New Haven and beg them to take us. Many residents here did their homework and possess all the figures and facts that says this bride is limping, hunchback, and blind. Let's not get away. Do you possess all those facts and figures? Did you all here on the podium do the research? Anyhow, I'm not a figure person. I'm more interested in the process. There are 9 of you here. There are about a few hundreds of us here. It's very clear that all the people are here giving up their time and free evening after a day of work and raising kids and whatnot because they care about the town, they've done the homework, and you know that this matchmaking, this shidduch, as we say, sucks. However, this is not the first time that we had a huge public outcry where the council proposed to give away some of our choice property. Some of you had been on the council when the Bill Haney land deal was voted for. Do you remember? I do remember after the vote, one of the councilmen, a good man who cares about the town, stormed out and said, "They don't listen. They don't listen." Mr. Forrester, maybe you can make them listen now. I hear that this is a done deal, that you already have the paper. I hope not. I also read in the Star a while ago after another cockamaniac kind of vote that one of you told the Star that your mind was made before. So is this public forum a sham?
Yeah.
Mr. Kubrick, Mr. Bishop, Mayor, is this Stratford still a democracy or is it an autocracy? I hope you can answer this question with your vote. Vote for what your residents want. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Wally Kadim. I'm sorry, withdrawn. Next speaker is Nick Patino. Nick Fatino? Okay, Nick Fatino's not responding. Next speaker is Wally Kadim.
My name is Wally Kadim. I live at 196 Larkin Court, Stratford, Connecticut. My son Wally is here with me. I brought him here because I wanted him to see democracy in action. I hope that's what we get to see tonight. I'm very thankful for everyone who sits on the council. I'm very thankful because you give your life and your heart into this council that you're on. And sometimes when you're in a battle for so long, it gets a little hazy. So maybe having all these people out here can open your eyes a little bit so you can see that this situation has to come to a head. In the fact that we own our water treatment plant and our workers are from our town and they care about us. The other aspect of it is that you can't consciously say, just without being on the council, without dealing with this issue we're dealing with, just realistically, you can't think that you're going to sell something of yours and think the other person's going to care more about it than yourself. That's a no-brainer. I mean, you have no meaning for this. You don't want this guy to be here. Because everyone here, and those who don't know about it, also don't want to sell the water treatment plant. No one wants you to sell it. No one. So if you truly represent the people, because you're supposed to, because they all voted for you, then you will listen to what they're saying. They're not yelling and screaming at you. They're just talking just like human beings always do, communicate. And my son said, he said, Dad, why is it so hard? Why they don't understand they're not supposed to sell it? It's ours. We're supposed to keep it. This is a 13-year-old young man. He can figure this out, and we have an apartment. I don't know. Maybe I need to go back to school because he's learning more than me, I guess. Because I already recognize that this is not necessary. Stop selling Stratford. I love Stratford. I'm not even from Stratford. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I bought a house here 15 years ago for the betterment of my children so they don't have to grow up whizzing over bullets and everything in Brooklyn. I love Stratford. I give my life for Stratford. I love Stratford. You guys live here, born here, raised here, and you not acting like you love Stratford. I mean, these people, I know y'all want to go home and eat, play with your children, watch a TV show, do something. You don't want to be here. But I'm here because I care. And I pray to God that you hear these people, because if it's a done deal, then we ain't in America no more. This ain't America. This is a done deal. We are not in America anymore. Forget about it. We can rename it. But please, think of the children that come behind us, like my son. He's going to be a homeowner. I'm a homeowner. I plan to own more homes, if God allowed me to. But I'm going to love what I do and love the people that I embark on this mission with. And these are our people. This is us. This is Stratford. We love Stratford. That's changing Stratford. We don't want to change it. We love it the way it is. This is not Brooklyn. This is not New Haven. This is not Fairfield. Stop comparing us to all of those places. West Haven, Westport, they got more money than us. Leave them where they are, and we are where we are. Let's stay in our lane. The love lane. Let's love our place. Let's stop acting like we children fighting over cookies and candy. What is this? It shouldn't be that way. And I know sometimes I look up, and sometimes I'm happy to see my council loving us. But then sometimes I look at some of you guys' faces with puss. Hey, get that off your face. If you don't like what you do, step down. angry at people coming in here voicing their opinion because they pay taxes. I pay a lot of taxes. Cars, houses, everything. I pay tax. I love Stratford. Can you say you love Stratford when you keep selling everything? And every time you sell something, it blows up in your face.
Yeah.
Every time. And the funny aspect of it is, we're not dealing with the Shakespeare tonight, but the Shakespeare is a beautiful place. I've been inside the place. Just let's get it going, baby. What we doing? That's what the movie theater's going. The movie theater's going.
Oh, that's sad.
And that was out of your control, I understand that. But not the Shakespeare. That's not out of your control. Let's keep it going, baby. Let's get it going. My son is an actor. He wants to be there. He wants to use that facility. A lot of children that's in his program, they want to be there. I know I'm jumping off topic, but this has to do with ownership. This has to do with Stratford. Let's stand up for what we love. You say you love Stratford? Stand up first. You're making these backdoor deals and acting like it's okay. Like we're going to get up and woke up and say, hey, we happy you just killed us. Nobody going to do that. You keep throwing us to the side, man. Look, I understand. A lot of pressure being on the council.
Mr. Kadeem.
Guess what? A lot of people want to run for them seats. Go on out, get on out. Go. Get out.
Mr. Kadeem, please conclude.
Go. Everybody that don't want to continue, get up and leave.
Mr. Kadeem, please.
Everybody that's not
Next speaker is
on the council, please get up and leave. Now, this is a good time to leave. So that you don't make a bad choice with this one.
Mr. Kadeem, please stop.
You have a bad habit of interrupting people. You're very rude.
Tricia Sperling.
Stop that.
Tricia Sperling.
You need to stop interrupting people.
Sperling, your time is right.
You're very rude. Stop it. Love more, hate less. Mr. Kadeem, I'm against the sale of the World Series flag. I'm against.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Clark-Sperling, and I reside at 186 Home Street. I have one question. Will this deal open us up to receiving more sewage from other towns, causing us to be less environmentally safe? And that's it.
Thank you. Next speaker is Karen Rhodey.
Good evening, Karen Rhodey at 2115 Cut Spring Road. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I appreciate your time and energy that you put into all of this. You know I don't bother you often, but when I do, it's important. And tonight, it's very important. The sewage treatment plant and the future of our community is important. I have had so many calls, people knocking on my door in my neighborhood, asking questions about the treatment plant, and I keep referring them to town hall. Friends and neighbors have come to me and said, this is a done deal, this is a done deal. We've heard this several times tonight. And honestly, I have fought for you guys, and I have told them it's not a done deal, there's a public hearing, and then I see in the paper, I've already made up my mind. Somebody made that comment to the Star, and it was very hard to defend y'all after that. And I'm being really honest here, because I have tried to have your backs on this one. But I don't know if I can anymore, and here's why. First of all, I want to be sure that each one of you represents your constituency, because those are the people that put you up there and asked you to hear them, represent them, and do what is in the best interest for them. Okay, I've carefully studied all the data. I've looked at the 5-year flow sheet. I have studied it. And let me tell you, it's been my late night reading and comparison writing. I've been up till 2 in the morning. I can't tell you how many nights going back and forth between them, and just doing it privately. I haven't talked to anybody about it other than to refer them to you, okay? And here's what I came up with. I came up with the fact that when you look at that budget, the bottom line is the people that are going to be paying for that budget are sitting in this room, whether it's billed by the town of Stratford, WPCA, or it's billed by New Haven. And when I look at the amounts, and when I had asked Mayor Harkins why he felt that it was important, one of the comments was, it had to do with workman's comp, and oh my God, workman's comp. Well, did anybody look at the freaking figure for workman's comp over the 5-year plan? It's triple what we have budgeted now. And I sat there and in disbelief, saying, oh my God, how is this possible? All the costs are built in, and we are going to be budgeted and paying for it through our sewer treatment plant. I would rather have the control local. That's my own personal opinion. Going forward, I went and I decided, okay, well, I'm going to do a little experiment because it's supposed to be cheaper. So what I did was I called Hamden, was one of the places I called, and Woodbridge. And I said, as a potential home buyer, tell me about the fees that are incurred in your taxes in town. Like, how do you process, do you have sewers? Do you have this? Do you have, and I presented myself that way. They referred me immediately to New Haven Water Pollution Control. What I did then was I took my water bills, because that's how they're going to be basing our rates, for starters. That's only a portion of it, is what I've been told, it's user-driven. So what they said was, it depends on what you use, but you pay a year behind, and they gave me all this stuff, and so they said, do you know what you currently use? So I dragged out my water bills, gave them the quantity, and I found out that based on today's rate through New Haven, I would be paying $55 more each cycle. Not a year, each cycle, for what I use. So my question is, how is it possible that it's going to be cost savings for taxpayers when we are the ones that actually fund the town budget in the water pollution control? And I think it's a logical question. So that's how I presented myself, and I suggest you all do the same with your water bills. But make sure you have a year total of the quantity of gallonage that you use, or however they translate it. But there's a letter acronym which is escaping me at the moment, but give it to them and find out what it's going to cost you. And that doesn't include the rate increases over the 5-year period. So that being said, moving forward, our WPCA plant, all of you sit on that board, and quite honestly, you, along with the employees that are here tonight, need to be congratulated, because our water pollution control plant is #1 in the state of Connecticut. Very easy to get. Very easy to get. So why would we want to give up the only thing that is award-winning in the town of Stratford? It's award-winning. It's used as an example for every other water pollution control facility in the state of Connecticut on how to run efficiently and how to make sure that the wastewater that's discharged into Long Island Sound is at the lowest possible So that's a big deal. Not only that, Stratford, Connecticut's water pollution control facility, which all of you are a part of, is known up and down the East Coast as an example of how to get it right. How to get it right. You guys got it right. Why are you selling it?
Ms. Rodia, please conclude.
Okay. Finally, I want you to think about the airport in Stratford. The last time we sold a ginormous piece of land in Stratford, even a small piece of land, but this is a bigger one, and what it contained was the airport, and we have been paying through the nose ever since. Please learn from our mistakes.
Thank you. Next speaker is Esther Goldson.
One final thing, I'm going to close, I promise. In the charter, it is your job to set the water pollution control rates. It is not anybody else's job, and it's a charter violation if you give it away.
Thank you. Next speaker is Esther Goldson. Esther Goldson?
She left.
Oh, she left. Next speaker is Joe Paul.
Joe Paul, 47 Harbor View Place. Members of the council, and may also add members of the Water Treatment Plant Board. One and the same. Listen, I listened to the earlier presentation by the mayor's office here, and to tell you the truth, from what I heard, I would not be compelled to vote in favor of regionalizing that way, and nor should you. And I'll tell you why. And by the way, I've had this discussion with Peter, who's my council representative from the 1st District. And I also followed up and I offered to help him understand what's entailed here with this type of regionalization. Now, what I've heard, the big thing is this 10% reduction in our debt issue on the bond side. And that might look fine and dandy, but we have not done anything to take the burden of costs from the average citizen in the town of Stratford. The citizens are still going to be burdened with the costs. And more so, it's the unknown out there now, because you folks up there who control the fees and set the fees are no longer going to have the ability to do so. We're going to have two people representing us going forward if this type of regionalization goes through. So I have real big concerns about moving forward under this type of regionalization. What I was wondering though is, regionalization works when you have obsolete, outdated equipment that you don't want to invest the capital funds to upgrade, and you use the opportunity to regionalize by having somebody else leverage their equipment to help you provide the service. In this case, water pollution and control. Why didn't we look at, and I'm asking you the question because this should have been another scenario on the table as we look at regionalization. Why didn't we look at leveraging our state-of-the-art best water treatment plant in the state of Connecticut and try to regionalize and bring other cities and towns into our unit? That would make more sense if you're going to regionalize water pollution and control. And don't give me, this is not your core competency. I mean, look at this. This is a publicly owned facility. And by that nature, it translates into it being your core competency. Because if it's not, then you're not competent to do your job. So I hope you have an answer, and I hope somebody's looked at regionalizing where we can bring other towns into our state-of-the-art facility where we control it and we charge fees to those towns. And you know what happens when you do that? Their fees help pay for our costs, and we can probably lower the costs to the people of Stratford for servicing water pollution and control facilities. So I think we look hard and we look long at doing something like that creatively, because we're in the business whether we like it or not. And that type of leveraging our WPCA, to me, makes a lot more sense than what I heard here in this presentation. It's riddled with holes, as you can see, and I've heard from the people. There's a lot of great questions unanswered, and I think the approach is flawed, and I think it would be doing significant harm to the people of Stratford. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mary Ann Tezo.
Is it on? Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. My name is Mary Ann Tezo. I live at 367 Windsor Avenue, Stratford, for many, many years. My son told me to tell you this. I'm going to be 85 years old in June. And he said, Mom, you should tell him that, because you're not doing this for yourself. You're doing it for the future, for the young people, for the young families. And he was right, I should say that. And I'm just going to mention one thing before I get into the main part of this. One of the things that was mentioned on the screen, the slides, was the, what did they call it? The pollution synergy, I guess it's called. Well, if you understand what's going on really, what Stratford has a clean plus $94,000 plus credits just in nitrogen. We don't dump raw sewage at all. New Haven, on the other hand, is minus $140,000 in nitrogen, which they're dumping into the sound, and during extreme storms, as somebody brought up, they're dumping partially treated sewage. They are under an order from the state DEP to get that fixed up, and they've been under an order for several years. And the DEP estimates it will cost them $500 million to fix their mess. Okay, now what I'm going to read now is a letter from Ann Altman. She's a PhD from Hamden, Connecticut. And she says, I was a member of the Hamden Legislative Council when Hamden sold its sewers. Moreover, I was a member of the council who made it her business to follow the negotiations and advise the members of the council. And here's what I recall. Hamden was in the red, New Haven was in the red. So the mayors decided to raise revenue by selling assets. This is a common strategy in such cases. And she goes on to say, they sold their sewers to the newly founded G&H WPCA, okay, that's Greater New Haven, as did a couple of neighboring towns. Greater New Haven raised the money to buy the sewers from them by borrowing $54 million. So citizens previously identified as taxpayers and sewer users became liable for taxes, sewer use payments, and the borrowed money. The sale was a way of making the mayors look good by getting the towns out of the red and, surreptitiously, she said, borrowing $54 million that would be owed by the sewer users, but would not be reflected in the mill rates or the taxes of the town involved. She said, so clearly this was a racket. But here's the interesting part, she says. I advised my colleagues on the council to vote in favor of the sewers. Why did I do that, she says. I did it because without joining Greater New Haven, we would have been clients of Greater New Haven because they had an extremely inadequate sewage, and they had a big problem. Having to pay Greater New Haven for their services, but not having a seat at the table, so now at least they have a seat at the table. We don't have any, I'm saying this, we don't have any sewer service that we need from Greater New Haven. She goes on to say, I was totally disgusted by the way the whole episode played out. The taxpayers, as sewer users, were saddled with $54 million in new debt, plus their taxes and their sewer use fees. The mayors appeared to the uninformed public to smell like roses as they shifted the debt to the new Greater New Haven, away from the towns and away from taxes, and get a large infusion of tax to prop up their town finances. And I have estimated, and that sheet ends more or less there, we will be stuck with a $48 million bond at approximately 3.1%, and that's the $37 million plus the $11 million, and now if they're talking about $16 million, it may go up or down. Okay. Instead of our own $37 million bond at 2%, the New Haven bond they're going to wish on us is going to be at 3.1%. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Rick Marcone.
Mitzi and the mayor got a good job out of it. She's gonna say that their mayor got a good job out of it.
Isn't anyone going to speak for this plan?
Why? Why would we?
There's not a single person here.
Mr. Marcone.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Rick Marcone, and I reside at 275 Luann Road. I think I've been told tonight that this is a good deal, and that my sewer fees are going to go down, and that the funds that we do pay into this Greater New Haven project is not going to be used to make better those projects those municipalities that are failing. I am having a hard time believing that. So I guess my question is, what will our share, the town of Stratford share, be in the Greater New Haven's WPCA court-mandated spending of an estimated $500 million in bonds for physical improvements in the current New Haven system to bring them up to compliance where our plant is already state-of-the-art and makes money for us. Please, gentlemen, I know most of you, you're reasonable and rational people. This is not a good deal. This is not a rational and not a good deal. Please, do not sell our plant to New Haven. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Lorraine, and I'm sorry, the last, it's 44 Allendale Drive. I can't read the writing. So Lorraine, please come up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Calzetta, and I reside at 44 Allendale Drive in Stratford, and I'm new to the town of Stratford, just having moved here in September of 2014. And I have a unique perspective on this because I work in the medical field, and I also have a degree in public health and have taken environmental engineering. I've been through water treatment facilities and understand the grand job that this facility employees have done to, and you too, even though I don't know you, to maintain this and what it takes to run a water facility. One thing that was really upsetting to me as a new homeowner to this town is that I had a choice of where to live in Stratford. And one of the issues, to be quite blunt with you, is that I was a little fearful of living in a town that was mostly composed of Republicans, because I'm a Democratic-leaning person, much more flexible and whatever. But I also saw the benefits of the community, as Wally said, the love of the people of this town, the infrastructure, some of the assets remaining in the town, such as the water system. I was actually looking for a place that also had electric through its facility, where I lived in Massachusetts before we had both. And one of the things that bothers me as a personal, new resident of this city is that I don't understand whenever there's a grandiose deal that goes on with anything. If you're going to buy a new car, buy a new house, some life event, your child is born, there's a lot of publicity. There's a lot of people commenting, coming up saying, oh, this is good, this is bad. Everybody that I talk to in this town, and I know a lot of people through the medical field, have told me that this is a horrible deal, that they disagree 100% with this. But I don't hear anybody else from the town, from the different departments, on how this is going to affect them, how long-term this is going to affect with the easements, people accessing their property, all this 189 miles. I mean, frankly, I'm fearful. I happen to know where I live that, there's been problems with the sewers. And I've had this issue before without water for 6 weeks because of infrastructure failures. And I know what the public health effect is on children, on animals, on elderly people. I worked in dialysis for 29 years, work in transplant now. I know what the effects is on the health of the citizens. And like everybody else said here, I have to say that I'm shocked that I have pride in my education, in my field, what I do, and that here's something that has been a grand success for the town council, for the workers, for the citizens of this town, and let's just give it away because we got a budget deficit. Where is the pride, again, like Wally said, where is the pride in your job undertaken, and where are the comments? Why isn't anybody else speaking about this in any way, shape, or form? Is there some kind of fear going on here with the other divisions? And the last thing that I want to say is that I also read a lot of information online, and that presentation was bogus. Okay? Bogus. That company in Maryland is going to overtake all of those jobs. These people are going to be unemployed. You're going to reassign them to the town for the same. Where are you going to get the money to do that, okay? And when you're paying out, losing all this money in revenue now, as everybody has indicated. So I think that, you really need to take a deep look at yourself and how your personal interests are affecting everybody else's life here. And as everybody said, the lives of our children and grandchildren, which I have children and grandchildren, and their futures in this town. Thank you.
Next speaker is Philip Young.
Good evening. Thank you for having us forward. Really appreciate it. Oh, yes, please.
Your name and address for the record.
Philip Young, 88 Wood Avenue. I appreciate you guys coming out tonight and actually having this meeting. Last time I spoke, my biggest problem was there was no information. So I appreciate you trying to put some information out there. Unfortunately, that was fluff. There was nothing to it. And I don't really understand the depth of the question you've had tonight is, pretty substantial. So, I appreciate you guys going up, standing up there and taking your knocks, but we really need to do better than this, and do our jobs better than this. And the one question I have for you, is this a done deal? Because it shouldn't be. And at this point, I'm getting the feeling that it's a done deal. And I've been told by several people that it is. So that's my question. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next speaker is John Goodsell.
John Goodsill, 462 Housatonic Avenue.
We can't hear you. Is it on?
How's that? Okay. John Goodsill, 462 Housatonic Avenue. Just so you know where I stand, I don't believe this, that we should be doing this and selling the facility to the Greater New Haven Authority. We have a relatively new, state-of-the-art facility that is under our control. And once we sell it, we never get that control back again. One of the things that if this is a done deal, and I hope it isn't, one of the questions you really have to answer is, in the end, you budgeted for this thing. And you budgeted in the town budget over the years for paying off the debt on the capital funding. And what I would expect, if this is a done deal, is that you would take that money that was budgeted every year and take it right out of the budget, not turn it over into the general fund or make it part of a new budget, but pull it right out of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Walter M. Kunis.
Can you hear me? Gotcha, good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Walter P. Kunis, 425 2nd Avenue. I have been listening to this farce all evening. I have attended many meetings about this subject. I have yet to see a person, with the exception of people from the town itself, come up and speak in favor of this proposal, sale of the water pollution plant. Let me get it straight. I say no. I have several people that I know, that I've approached, Sal the barber, Joanne the waitress up at the Bridgeport Flyer, Joan living up on Huntington Road, Chuck down in the deli. That's some of the people, many, there's many more, but that's just the people all around town that have spoke to me and said definitely no way should this go through. I think there's as I said before, I think there is a conflict of interest. Seeing you people, the town council, is also the water pollution plant. Same people, same seats, no changes. I think it's a conflict of interest. If there is going to be a sale, it should go to a referendum, as I have stated many times before. Otherwise, vote no. You heard everybody today about it. I thank you, Mr. Cupid, for keeping me down to the end of the line when I was way up front. I like to come on the end of the line. It is something here to watch you people. I realize you're giving your time and effort free for nothing. I applaud you for that. Some people think, and some just do on here. I don't believe, oh, okay. I was asked to hold this sign up, but this sign is wrong. You know why? See the first word up here? It says you paid for it. You didn't pay for it. We, the people, paid for it. Paid for what? Bring that part up to par. It is good. The boys are doing a wonderful job. They're working at it. It's still good. One of the things that our buddy over here, CEO of whatever the heck his title is, Woo Woo, came over and said, all the monies that take care of this plant will be paid for not by the people in the greater Bridgeport, in the greater New Haven area. Each individual group will take care of their own. Why do we got to get them involved? We're here, take care of ourselves. Let us do it. If you can't do it, get the heck out of the office and let somebody else who knows what to do get in there and run it. This is a vital thing. We lost the control when we gave away Bridgeport Airport. They're going to do the same thing here. 2 people out of 12. New Haven's got 4. We're going to get 2? No. It don't figure out. I don't have the other money-wise things. I've been listening. And it doesn't jive. It doesn't jive at all if you look at your figures. Any one of you is that way.
Mr. McInnes, please conclude.
Okay. I'm asking you one more time. If you're going to vote, vote no. Or if you think about voting, this is a thing for all the people of the town. It should go to a referendum and not just people who are pushed in by the administration. Thank you.
Next speaker is Lucilio.
He's going to say yes.
The only one.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of good questions here tonight. I think you're going to get a lot of good answers when the professionals finally have a chance to get up here. Lou DeCilio, 160 Timber Ridge Road.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Again, I think the professionals here this evening are going to give you the answers that you're looking for. You know, a lot of questions came up tonight about whether this is a done deal. And it sounds to me, no matter what happened with the presentation tonight, some of you came in with a preconceived notion that it is a done deal for, you know, not considering all the facts.
Mr. Cilio, please address the town council.
Okay. I think that when you look at all the facts, and you look at the presentation tonight, and you see how much the ratepayers are going to save, it has to be considered. You know, when you get ready to make a purchase, we should do it as we should do it as coalition to increase our buying power. Buying power will convert to savings. Regionalization is good if done right. Regionalization, not privatization of services, should be considered. The concept of regionalization means maintaining control and sharing expenses with other municipalities in an effort to save the town money. Working with other towns and sharing expenses should be a priority to cost savings. Although those words are coming out of my mouth tonight, those were the words uttered by Joe Paul, who was a candidate for Democrat mayor 2 years ago. Many people that came up to this podium this evening all supported Joe with letters of endorsement, Terry Masters, you know, Ariana Walls, every one of them. And when you support somebody for a position, you also support their platform, and you support what they believe in.
Mr. DeCilio, please address the proposal.
I am addressing the proposal.
Listen, I've just asked the speaker to do that. Please be quiet.
It is politics, because what's going on here is that when you look at it, and you look at the cost savings to the ratepayers, it's clearly politics. They came with a preconceived notion that this is a bad deal. What I'm saying is when you compare the rates that the Greater New Haven WPCA is proposing compared to what we have to charge, that's, in the first year alone, is a $35 difference. It's a 35, well, listen, we'll hear that from the,
You know, yeah, please don't interrupt the speaker.
You talked about a pilot program. We currently get $900,000, and we're going to, from the town for rent, and Greater New Haven's going to offer us $400,000. That's clearly the government's going to lose $500,000. But when you factor in the savings, the $35 per household, and you multiply that by the 20,000 households, that's $700,000. That's going to go right to the ratepayers. And if you looked at the slides close enough, and you saw the 5-year projection out, 5 years from now, there's an $85 difference, or $75, I think it was. That's $1.5 million. So, in the end of the day, when you look at all this stuff, and when everything's factored in, you know, there's also, when you go to Dunkin' Donuts, I'll give you a good analogy. When you go to Dunkin' Donuts and buy a coffee, you don't know what their overhead is. You don't know what they're paying their employees. You don't know the health care costs. What you know is you're paying $2 for that cup of coffee, and all that cost is built in to that coffee. So at the end, what you need to look at is the rates. When you sit here and you see the rates for Greater New Haven is going to be less than what we have to charge as a municipality, that's where the savings, and the savings goes right to the ratepayers. So anybody that's against this proposal wants the ratepayers to pay more over the long run. That's what it's about. So with that, I want to thank you all for your volunteering, and I appreciate your time and look forward to your vote.
Thank you. That was the last speaker of the. That was the last. Thanks for the behavior. The public forum is adjourned at 8:22 p.m. The next part of the evening is answers to questions that were raised. I'm going to go right through it. Just keep going. So they're going to go up there. What we want to address, there were questions posed, to address the questions that were posed by public.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for their speaking tonight. We really appreciate you coming out and sharing your concerns. One of the first questions I want to address is this a done deal? And no, obviously, we're having a public hearing this evening. The council is going to be having a vote at some later date. So they are going to decide and determine the fate of this regionalization proposal, which is why we're here tonight explaining it. But I want to thank everybody for their efforts coming out and speaking. It's good to see such good public interest and taking advantage of the town. So thank you. I did take notes, actually. Credit where credit is due. My assistant took some great notes. I have several pages here But a lot of the, one of the main tenets is the value. How did we come up with the value? And I think it's important to realize that the payment was a negotiated thing. It's a lump sum payment. It's part of a transactional negotiation. And it's based on the equity portion of the assets available. So obviously, you hear people say it's $100 million. Well, it's $100 million when it was originally built, but then you have to factor in, depreciation, useful life. And that payment was negotiated on the value of the equity portion that was of the assets. Also, I'm sorry? With Greater New Haven?
Sir, there's no question, just to address the questions.
Okay, fair enough. We were negotiating with Greater New Haven, and we determined that $16 million was the achievable balance for getting an equity portion payment versus the impact that it would have on the rate. Because people have said, and are correct in that, these things will be built into the rate. But what we have to look at is, what will the rate be regardless of the overhead? Is it going to be less under a regionalization proposal or more as status quo? And that's one of the reasons that the administration is so comfortable in bringing this proposal to the council for approval. So that was one of the majors. If you'll bear with me, I'll try to go through my notes and answer the questions. One of the questions was, why did we change the venue from town hall to here? Obviously, because we wanted to have people have available seating. The other question was, why aren't other towns doing this? I can't speak to other towns. I can tell you that I know for a fact that the governor, the state legislature, several members of people have been encouraging towns, including DEEP, with their incentivized grants, to look at regionalization. They're asking us, not just with water pollution control authorities, but other areas. Someone said, why the rush? I kind of disagree with that statement. 3 years is not a rush in time. Excuse me. Furthermore, where are we coming up with the bills or these rates? As I mentioned before, we do have independent consultants who looked at this. I'm happy to have them speak directly to it. I'm also going to be at the end of this turning it over to give Mr. Holbrook a chance to speak. What are they putting up to assure the repayment of the debt? Obviously, when any entity takes on debt, they have to assure it, otherwise they can default and they'll be subject to negative credit rating, inability to borrow, inability to operate. So that's what they're putting up. What are the capital needs? Well, my presentation did address what the capital needs were. So one person asked if any of the easements that we're deeding over will include greenway parklands. No, the answer to that is no. And when was the last time the pipes were worked on? We work on the pipes every year through the capital program. Thank you. I think most of the other questions were answered in the presentation. I'm sure I went through. One thing I do want to clarify: this 36-month expiration date for anything that is nowhere in the asset purchase agreement, and we can have our attorney speak to that if you want to go a little bit more in depth to that. But that is a mischaracterization. It's not true. Can you hear me? Well, I'm not speaking. I'm answering. I'm presenting now to them. At this point, I think it's important that I introduce Sid Holbrook from Greater New Haven. He's going to speak to New Haven's side of this transaction and how we work together on this transaction proposal. Sid.
Thank you very much. My name is Sid Holbrook. I'm the Executive Director of the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority, and all I can say is, wow, a lot of questions, and we hope to answer those questions. A lot has been put into this from the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control side of this, and we didn't go into this kind of willy-nilly. A lot was put into this, was looked at very closely. It was looked at what was the benefits to the people of the town of Stratford and what was the benefits to the people that are ratepayers at the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority. There was a few questions that were asked that I really had to take exception to. One was that we're not a good facility. Actually, we're looked at by the Department of Environmental Protection and by the Environmental Protection Agency out of Boston as one of the best plants in New England. We've been cited by the New York City Environmental Protection Agency as a model. We work very hard We're a very frugal plant. We watch our dollars very closely, and I think that we produce an excellent job for those that we service. In the environment, the well-being of the environment, the well-being of Long Island Sound is paramount to all other things that we do. Gabe Varka, who's with me here today, is our Chief Financial Officer, and Gabe's been working with this project since its inception. And I'm going to ask him, because he really can answer every single question that was asked as it relates to the funding. And I'm going to ask Gabe, would you come forward and you want to answer those questions that had to do with the funding? Thanks, Gabe.
Thank you, Sid. Pretty much reiterating some of the things that Sid said and trying to give information in regards to the questions that were answered here tonight. I think it's important that there's transparency and everybody has a good understanding of how these things work and the decisions get made independently. I'm the lucky guy that's been able to put these things together and work on this over the last couple of years. That being said, I think that it's important that the council gets all their questions answered, the people get all their questions answered, and everybody come together and make a decision, right, wrong, or indifferent, and then everybody is represented fairly. Is this a done deal? I'd like to address what Steve had said, because our board is pretty much asking the same questions that these residents have asked, that you board members have asked. Everything seems to focus around one important factor. The monies that will be raised in Stratford will be used for the expenditures in Stratford. The monies get raised in the other 4 constituent municipalities are used only for the expenditures in the other constituent municipalities. That said, the purchase price of the $16 million, which includes the reserve cash, that money will be borrowed in revenue bonds, doubly tax exempt revenue bonds, and it will be paid back out of the rates that are generated in Stratford. That being said, what we've worked on and put together, and as part of the evaluation process, is a 5-year projected budget. And what I can tell you is that when we did this 10 years ago in New Haven, we put together the same assumed budget under the same model, and that those will be the rates, plus or minus less than 1% in regards to what the rates will be for the next 5 years. Whether you regionalize with the Greater New Haven or you stand alone on yourself, your rates are going to go up because of the capital infrastructure needs in regards to what's required under your town. We currently have a consent order from the DEP and an order from the EPA as well. The infrastructure renewal estimates for the town for the pump stations and collection system over the next 20 years are probably about anywhere from $70 to $100 million. What I think we bring to the table in a large way is we are a larger facility in the state of Connecticut, so we garner a lot more clean water funding. We're way up on the priority list. If we purchase the assets and Stratford joins the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority, then they will actually have the benefit of receiving much more in regards to clean water funds, which comes at a 2% 20-year loan and a significant grant portion in regards to being able to invest those monies into your infrastructure. The budget process, which I know that I've had this question come up several times. Our budget process for the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority is one that is taken part in every year. Our board members each one is individually walked through a workshop. Everybody, it's very transparent in regards to how the budget is set and how it's understood. An independent consultant comes in, evaluates the expenses necessary to operate the agency from a revenue perspective, identifying all the expenses, and then the rate set right now comes out of what those revenues are estimated to be and what the expenses are. The same will take place for the Stratford budget. Independent cost of service study is created. The rate falls out of what the requirements are. The expenses are pretty much the same expenses that existed before, with the additional debt service as it relates to the infrastructure renewal. And then the rate comes out of that. Stratford's rate will be based on exactly what it's based on now. Right now it's $400 per residential unit, and they have a CCF component for the commercial establishments. That mechanism will stay in place. At some point in the future, we would like to do an evaluation to see if Stratford what it would look like if it was comparable on the CCF rate. And Then it's up to the board, as Stratford would take part in that, in regards to whether that would be something that would be of a positive nature. It is definitely in no way, shape, or form something that has to be done. Right now, if you look at what the New Haven ratepayers are paying in regards to the average residential user, right now it comes out to about $392. It's pretty much on par with what Stratford's average residential user is. Our commercial rate is $3.75 a CCF, Stratford's is $4.67 a CCF. So our rate in regards to the commercial users comes down to be a little bit less, but we have an administrative fee on the bills. It's $13 a quarter. You guys bill twice a year, we bill 4 times a year. Stratford will be continued to be billed twice a year as they are now. There will be not an administrative fee added to the bill. You know, we can only go back and tell you how this pretty much worked in New Haven. It's been 10 years. I worked on the original project. Basically, some of the same consultants that you have employed to evaluate your system are working on this project and worked on it 10 years ago as well. You have a pump station plan that's been done. It identifies $8 million of capital improvements that need to be done over the next 5 years. We've identified that in the 5-year capital budget as it relates to what needs to be done in Stratford. We're a water pollution control authority. We're a doubly tax exempt, not-for-profit utility. We're not a political entity. We float tax exempt bonds. We garner clean water funds. The rates are set by the process in regards to the cost of service study. Every year there's an auditor that has to come in and audit the books. The audit is turned over for public documents. We're overseen by the DEP, the EPA, the Treasurer's Office, OPM, the Attorney General's Office. This is significant scrutiny in regards to the industry that we work in. And in regards to the employees, we would love to have the employees come to work for us. We're an AFSCME union, we're a union shop. We've been in the union since the 50s. These are city unions that we inherited from the other towns. 10 years ago when regionalization took place, there were 7 different unions and upwards of 70 employees. Not one person lost their job. It's a personal decision whether or not you come to work for the agency. Some people have a vested interest in staying with the town because of their years of service. That becomes a personal issue. It's not because we don't want them. We don't have people standing in the wings to operate the wastewater treatment plant. We have our employees who operate our wastewater treatment plant, and we'd love to have the Stratford people come to operate the wastewater treatment plant and be our employees. I've met with the employees. We have some great employees, and we'd love to do business with them. Very comparable wages and benefits. The people that work in this industry because they're involved. Our building is full of a whole building full of people that have dedicated their life to the environment and making Long Island sound a cleaner place. We've not taken this lightly. We've evaluated on a lot of different levels. Over the last 10 years, we've evaluated and considered this and had this discussion with a lot of towns. Frankly, we haven't actually offered the ability for anybody to join the entity because they were not in the position that actually saw benefits for them. Stratford can see some benefits. We're going to share some overhead of the management staff. We have our own engineering staff. One of the big benefits of us is that we actually employ everybody who's a professional in the field. We have our own incinerator, we process sludge. We have our own engineering department, we have our own operations department. People who other towns like Stratford or other smaller entities have to hire a battery of consultants to oversee these construction projects and deal with a lot of these issues. We do all this in-house. That's where the synergies come from. It's not a secret. We're pretty much a one-trick pony. We don't plow roads, we don't have schools, we don't cut grass at the park. All we do is wastewater treatment, and we do it well. And that's what the state would actually be willing to say and commit to. As Steve had said, the fact that they're willing to actually entertain the 5% increase in grant for something, I think shows their support. Anybody that's interested in meeting, we're a very transparent organization. We'll meet with anybody, anytime, any group, any person. You can come down, you want to tour the facility, you want to go through the budget line item by line item. We have have no problem, we will do that. Actually making this budget part of our cost of service study, whether this transaction takes place or not, we have to move forward and act like that this does, because we need to operate the facility when and if there is a closing. That being said, I entertain any of the questions from the council.
Well, at this point, we're still answering questions from the public. Steve, have we covered them all? Okay, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
well then, we can open it up for questions from the town council to folks down the front.
Steve, in my district, I have sewer pipes that are over 100 years old, and one project in particular, I know you've been talking to New Haven about, is a very expensive project. Barnum Ave sewer slip lining. Is that something New Haven's willing to, we're going to be doing a streetscape project down there. Is that something you guys be willing to work in tandem?
Yeah, we
with?
actually have been handed the capital budget infrastructure for your current capital budget. I believe that that's on there. It's a $750,000 lining or $1 million open cut. We actually are currently getting the CDs for the TV inspection to see if how that budget's out. We will maintain responsibility to do any of the capital projects that Stratford has started. We've got Peter is here. Peter's been coming to our subcommittee meetings and working with us. Steve is the consultant who's worked on your projects. We've been dealing with these people. We're not going to short anything. We don't hide anything. You're going to pay for your infrastructure projects, just like you do now. So if that project is part of the capital projects that are set up to go, we're going to do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll work our way down.
All right, thank you. For anybody from the group, I hear a lot about this Connecticut General Statute 7-267, which prevents the reserve fund, which Stratford would then retain, from getting transferred for any purpose other than WPCA purposes. So how do we reconcile that?
Thank you, Councilman. I think that's a great question. Pass it off to God. But in general speaking, in terms, one of the things that you're not allowed to do, you're right, you're not allowed to take money out and expend it. One of the reasons we have a purchase price of $16 million is we're transferring the entire operation over to New Haven, should the council vote to do this. But to get into the specifics, I'm going to ask John Staffstrom from Pullman Conley, one of the attorneys representing us, representing the town on this.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. As Steve said, I'm John Staffstrom from the firm of Pullman and Comley. We are bond counsel to the town of Stratford, and we are representing, we're working with the town attorney in structuring this transaction. We are very well aware of the statute, and we are comfortable that the way this transaction is structured, with a $16 million purchase price for all of the assets of the WPCA, at the end of the day, really leaving the WPCA with no assets, complies with the statute. We are, as Steve pointed out in his presentation, which did get sort of probably lost in the shuffle a little bit, the town is maintaining the sewer assessments. So those sewer assessments are paid by people who look into the sewer system, okay? On a going forward basis, we're not yet hooked in. And the purpose for that is those sewers were actually built with town general funds. Those were not built with WPCA funds. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. If I understand the capital transaction, so the purchase price would be $16 million.
That's correct.
And New Haven would absorb the debt of $37 million. So you have the $37 million plus the purchase price of $16 million. So that would basically be the bond, the indebtedness that would eventually be paid by the ratepayers of Stratford, correct?
That's correct, Councilman.
We currently have a 24/7 facility. My assumption is that Greater New Haven would maintain staffing 24/7. We have emergency response crews here in Stratford. Would that continue, or would they come from an outside?
Broadly, yes, that would be true, but I'll turn it over to Gabe to answer the specifics of that.
Yes, Stratford would still maintain the 24/7 operation. In regards, I did hear earlier, that there'd be 23 employees, right? We're pretty much developed an organizational chart that just about mirrors Stratford's. We'll have 16 employees. We'll have 2 collections crews. They'll be dispatched from the plant. Stratford will be maintained in regards to a 24/7 operation, just like it is now. That's actually a requirement from the deep, so we'd be maintaining the same exact staffing as you have now.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. To further that point about what our debt liabilities are going to be, the ratepayers are going to be responsible in their fees, or continue to the fees for the 37 million that we are transferring debt to New Haven. Is that correct?
Yes, essentially. The difference, Councilwoman, I think the distinction, just to clarify some of the public comments, is that currently that's $37 million is backed by the full faith and credit of the town of Stratford. Essentially, if the WPCA were to default on that loan, it would become the town's obligation to fulfill it. So the difference here is that it will now be backed by the full faith and credit of the Greater New Haven governmental entity. So that's how we achieve the reduction of 10% bonded indebtedness on the town side.
Understood. But assuming the town of Stratford or the Water Pollution Authority does not go bankrupt, considering they have 5.6 million in reserves, the ratepayers would continue to be responsible through their fees for the 37 million, correct?
That's correct, and I think it's ultimately to the point I mentioned
Okay,
earlier.
that's
that
fine.
The overhead is essentially what you want to look at.
Well, we'll take one step at a time.
Oh, I'm just trying to address your question. Are the ratepayers responsible at a $460 rate, or are they responsible for that 37 million at a $425 rate?
Understood. We'll get to that. I just want to understand the liability of our debt at this point.
Clearly.
Okay? Greater New Haven is paying us $16 million. They're going to have to take out a bond to do so. Is that considered part of the cost of Stratford to be bared by the ratepayers? Is that included or not? Would that come back to us?
Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to be paying the $11 million. In addition to that, we are going to get, instead of 900,000, we're going to get 200,000 up to 400,000 in payments in lieu of taxes, pilots. So we're going to get roughly a little bit less, right?
Is that a question? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the difference, I think, Council, that one of the complaints that we heard, and with this body asking us to look into how do we avoid the fee increases that were so large that we saw in 2012, is that we heard, and we hear this time and again, in fact, I believe even you bring it up, every year I have a budget meeting, that they shouldn't be paying this land use fee. Well, this removes that land use fee. And so, well, yes, we will receive less compensation on an annual basis, but we will still receive pilot, so it's comparable. However, the obligation of paying for the user fee, or I'm sorry, for the land fee will no longer be there, which seems to address a large concern that some people have.
Let me jump to that point. My first point was, we're taking on, as a user, I have a house, we're going to be taking on, we're going to continue with the debt that we currently have. We're going to be taking on the responsibility through our fees of paying for the $11 million that we now will purchase for us. When we need to upgrade our infrastructure for the 100 and some odd miles that we have, they're going to take out a bond. We're going to need to pay for that in our user fees regardless. So from that column to column, it sounds like we're paying more for the debt because we're going to continue paying our same debt, but now we have $11 million or $16 million on top of that. Now you jump to the point that it'll cost less if New Haven runs the plant than if Stratford runs the plant. That's your bottom line. That's the savings. And my contention has been all along that we could do a better job of running our plant. And as the council members, we have control to force those changes. In fact, we did. We did not let the fees rise as high as the administration had requested. We have $5.6 million in reserve that was supposed to allow us to dampen our increases and to provide some money towards paying for that infrastructure of mileage and limit how much we needed to bond in the future. So I ask, as you make the comparison of what is in the budget now, which is what the administration has put forward, it would appear to me when I go through my math that it is severely bloated, and it looks, and I can go through line by line, but we'll do that next week, it looks as if it is devised in a way that makes it look like we would get a savings if we went with New Haven. And if New Haven can run our plant cheaper, and we don't even have to do the debt, why can't we run our plant cheaper?
Thank you for those comments. I'm happy to address them if I can. I think one of the first points is we haven't been budgeting as much as we're going to be needing to in the future for capital. We on average budget up between $600,000 and $700,000 per year. Those figures are likely to jump in the future because we have more to maintain and more things that are coming to the end of their useful life. So that's one of the reasons that the budget increase that you mentioned is displayed that way. We're starting to have to see the fact that we have to pay for these costs and these increases in maintenance and repair. Your point is, why can New Haven do it better? Well, I'm going to let New Haven answer that, but the point ultimately is they are they have more buying power. And obviously with economies of scale, broadly speaking, if you can buy more things at a lower cost, that's going to reflect the savings. And I'm sorry if this isn't what people want to hear, but the fact is that this is the truth. It's borne out, it's worked in other municipalities, they have a favorable opinion of it, it's been printed in the newspapers, and we believe that it's a positive thing for the town, ultimately. But to specifically speak, why can New Haven do it better than we can, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Barr.
A couple of the reasons, and we can get together and go over the line item in the budget line by line, and that would probably be best in the long run to get all your questions answered. But one of the things that I spoke of before is because of our priority, we actually garner a lot more clean water funds. So that debt actually at 2% is significantly less than what you would borrow for your regular capital at 4 and 4.25. Plus there is a grant component, which you received on the plant, but because of your lower priority rating in regards to where you are on the clean water fund list, you will not get for the collection system. We will actually be able to do a cheaper sludge disposal. We use outside services in regards to some of the maintenance, and we use outside services for part of the sewer cleaning. We still maintain 2 sewer crews that are union employees working for us, but we use contractors to clean some of the larger diameter pipes and some of the mileage.
On that point, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I've been told by many of the employees, and it sounds somewhat contradictory to what you just said, that come July 1st, they're going to be terminated. And if they want to work for New Haven, they will need to apply again as a new employee. Their jobs will be offered first to the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Authority employees and possibly Cinepro, which is the outside contractor. And any positions that are remaining, they would be considered, but they would have to reapply, and their credentials or skill levels or seniority would not be included in that. And I would like for you to respond, because as far as I know, all those positions we have in engineering, we have maintenance, we don't have to go to an outside company to do any of those facilities. We're doing them now. So could you respond to how specifically the employees will be included in your administration?
Sure. Right now, as I had stated before, that we have an AFSCME union, 2 of them, a management AFSCME union and a labor AFSCME union. Right now, because of our existing union contracts, any jobs that are going to be new for the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority have to be posted internally for any employees to have the opportunity to apply for those jobs. Now that happens internally, and then along with the rest of the employees that currently work for you, After that 10-day period, they have to be posted. Anybody outside, including your employees, can then apply for those jobs.
Anybody?
Anybody. That being said, priority in regards to what the discussion was with the mayor directly, priority is given to the existing employees because they're there doing the jobs now. I don't have the ability to say that they can maintain their seniority because they can't, because we hire them as new employees. They come into the union shop as new employees, their seniority is day one. That's unfortunate, and I don't disagree with you. Unfortunately, or fortunately for the union employees, we already are in a union shop. So the union would not allow me to bring in employees who starting on the first day with our entity with 10 or 15 years of seniority. That being said, New Haven has the employees that work for them now, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they would go to work in Stratford. If somebody so chose because they lived closer and wanted to work in Stratford, well, then that would give an opening in New Haven that somebody who worked in Stratford will be able to move into that position.
So if I understand you correctly, the employees that we currently have now that are taking care of our plant so admirably may not or will not necessarily be the same employees after this deal goes through, and they may or may not have a job in your organization because it is also open to the public with hopefully a priority for them.
No, not hopefully. Your people are given priority in regards to the job openings that exist because of the existing union contract. We have to post the jobs internally.
So they may get a job somewhere, but not what they're doing now.
Yes, that's true. They could end up being offered a job that's in New Haven. You're absolutely right. But now it's up to the employees in regards to whether they want to stay with the town or be offered employment and come to work for us.
Can you tell me about the Synagro? I understand they're a private company, they're an outside contractor that does all the maintenance.
Synagro currently has two contracts for us. One is sludge disposal, and they operate the incinerator. The other is a maintenance contract that we just entered into in September. They actually perform the mechanical services in the plant and for the pump stations.
Should I pass it along and come back around?
Two fast questions. The current plant you run in New Haven, we wouldn't have a private company come in and run this place, basically. In the Stratford aspect, it'll still be run by public.
Yes, absolutely. We actually, all our operations, which is all the employees in regards to the wastewater treatment plant operations, are WPCA, Greater New Haven WPCA.
So they're still under the guise of government?
Yes.
And the other thing was, with regards to, I know that New Haven has to do a bunch of $500 million worth of work for their sewer lines. In Stratford, like I said, a lot of the parts of town, the sewers are pretty bad shape. So, we have to start doing that. So what would be like your budget? Like, the first project obviously you guys are going to be doing would be $1 million for Barnum Ave, but like what per year, how would you go about focusing on the old areas of town?
Right, following what actually, because you guys have a pump station and collection system report done by Ty and Bond, taking that report and evaluating it, we've identified $8.2 million in collection system and pump station improvements to do over the next 5 years.
Okay, so you're basically, see that, and that's actually where, that sounds like a very good idea. It sounds like on paper, there's still a lot of questions, but it sounds like on paper you do seem to save the ratepayers some money. And do have a plan, but we don't have a plan now, there's nothing, we're not doing much of anything in terms of this replacement, so, it seems like a worthwhile thing to look at.
Well, I'd just like to know what would happen after the 5 years.
In terms of what, Councilman, rate protection?
Rates, sewer lines.
Every year, when we do the cost of service study in the annual budget, the cost of service study identifies a 5-year budget out from there. So on every single year when we do a budget, it identifies the following fiscal year's budget and what we believe the budget will be for the following 5 years. You know, I think it's important to make a note that under the entity that we operate, the rate comes out of the requirements in regards to the infrastructure and the operations costs. It's not political, so there's no pressure to say the rate can't go up, the rate can't go up. The rate can only go up because the infrastructure needs goes up. So in regards to underground infrastructure, what happens in this industry is because you don't see it, you think that it's not necessary to maintain it. Well, it's easy to say that when something's under the ground and it's in bad shape, when you don't have to see it and it needs $2 million of work, you can ignore it. But then in 3 years, it needs $6 million of work. So it's not something like a leaky roof where you can't live with it because it's leaking all the time and you just have to change it. The industry seems to be in a way that when it's political, the rate increases don't occur because naturally nobody wants to deal with a rate increase. This is where the difference has occurred with regionalization in these 4 towns. The rates fall out of the infrastructure requirements and the operational changes. That being said, we make it a priority to chase any free and cheap money that we can. And if somebody has told you that the rate's going to go down or the rate's not going to go up, it wasn't me, because that's not true.
Thank you. One initial question. This concerns extending sewer lines, the decision to extend, or will the town of Stratford maintain the right to decide when a sewer line is extended?
Yes, Councilman, we have the right to either decide whether to extend or not to extend based on some of our requirements. And I believe, and Mr. Stafford, correct me if I'm wrong, that is actually going to be written into, I believe it's the bylaws? The bylaws, so that we will maintain that control.
And for how long?
In perpetuity.
Now, I guess I've been listening all night, and is the ultimate goal, I think, there's 2 things. There's always the day-to-day goal and the 1-year goal of rates, but is the ultimate goal to create, like you said, the word synergies, or a center of gravity, if you will, that you're going to have HR, you're going to have IT, you're going to have all the managers are going to be, that cost is going to be absorbed by the Greater New Haven, so it would reduce our liability on this end? Is that?
That's correct. I mean, ultimately, when you have a centralized management system that Greater New Haven is going to provide, and those costs will be spread over 5 towns as opposed to the current situation, which is one entity, it's a natural savings.
And the second part of that question, I was watching in Derby or Ansonia recently where they had to do an emergency, and I think it probably ties to that gentleman's comment. They did not take care of the infrastructure. They had to come up with a $31 million, I think it was, bond that they had to go in and get a referendum, and the town had really no choice because I think they were at a tipping point. So this is partly to avoid all that from a long-term perspective?
Partly to avoid the liability of that, Councilman, but also just to enable to address the situation with a plan and over time and come up with that.
I was just wondering if the people from the Greater New Haven see more towns doing this in the state of Connecticut in the next few years, or 10, 20 years from now. Do you think this is going to be more of a growing trend? I think people are a little scared by it because it's a new concept, but it looks like it's going to save the ratepayers money. So I'm just wondering if you're going to see more towns do this down the road.
One of the things, and I'm going to turn it over to Sid in 1 second, but this you said something that's interesting, because this isn't a new concept. There's actually regional authorities that exist now. The MDC, Regional Water Pollution Control Authority, exists and governs probably around 90,000 people. There's the Mattabassett District, which includes New Britain, Middletown, Cromwell, and Middletown was a new addition to that, and I'll let Mr. Holbrook speak to that. But these exist, and these regional enterprises exist currently in Connecticut, and it is the trend in the country. But I'm going to let Mr. Holbrook speak to it.
That's absolute. We just saw, Middletown just went in with Mattabassett. We're the second largest authority in the state, next to MDC. It's been stated, why aren't other towns doing this? Why aren't we have been asked by other towns to do this, as Gabe said. Actually, and as he stated, and it's very important that we look at these. When we do look at this, and we look at other towns, we look at it. What's the value to the town? Because of course we don't want to do something where the town's going to reject it because it's not of a benefit to that town. We don't even want to spend our time or energy in looking at it. And right away, you can tell in many instances that's the case. But in the situation with Stratford, when we looked at it, it was of benefit to both of us. To both of us. And that's why it was pursued. Are there going to be more towns that are going to be wanting to get in with us? We've already been approached by other towns. And I'm sure there'll be others down the road that will want to come in with us. That was not behind this, in us looking to bring Stratford into this. But I guess the original question, I can say absolutely, the DEP deals with this all the time. They're looking at, Bridgeport was looking at doing something with Trumbull, I know. And there's other communities that are looking to regionalize because there is a lot of synergy, as what's been stated by Steve and by Gabe, that makes it work, that saves all the ratepayers in all the instances money, and it's a lot more of a benefit. You don't have an engineering department, do you? That's affiliated directly with the plant. We do. You do have to go outside. I think it was asked to get outside consultants to come in and do work that we don't, and you won't, because these people sit right in New Haven. They're paid engineers for the city, for the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority, and they can answer a lot of questions. They spend a lot of time working. I say a lot of time. They work daily with the Department of Environmental Protection.
While you have the mic, can you answer another question for me?
Sure.
A lot of people, I think, have the misconception that we're hooking our pipes up to your plant. People said we're skipping over Milford. And I just want to make sure everybody to understand, not just the people in this room. I have received phone calls and emails, and just that this is going to be shown, so I want everybody to understand. Can you just state that for the record?
Yes, and people are laughing, but that question does come up, and that's what's generated in Stratford will go to Stratford, and there's no intention of running any pipes from Stratford to New Haven or from New Haven to Stratford, for the record.
Can the budget guy get the mic back for a second, please?
Sure.
I don't know your official title, I'm sorry.
All right.
How confident are you in your 5-year plan that you have for the rates for Stratford?
I'm very confident. I mean, not only have I looked at it, we've actually had the consultant who does our cost of service study look at it. We're right now in the final portions of evaluating it. I think that if the transaction moves forward, we'll be 99% short of any catastrophe that's unforeseen, which would actually result in the same thing happening had regionalization not took place.
Okay, my last question just goes back to the workers that we have at our plant now, the fine workers that we have at our fine plant, as everybody has stated, and we all know that. You went over quickly what happened to the workers in the other towns when they regionalized with you. Can you just state that again, please?
Yeah, in New Haven, East Haven, and Hamden, Woodbridge didn't have any employees. They all either came to work for the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority as new employees, or they went to some other department in the town. Now, working on that, because I worked for the town at the time, the city of New Haven. What it is, it becomes a decision more in regards to, depending on how many years you have with the city or town, and what your pension situation is, whether or not you should complete your employment with the city or town, or should you go to a new employer. So a lot of it doesn't have to do with actually working at the plant itself. A lot of it has to do with the current situation of whether you should stay employed by the town or not.
Thank you very much.
Yes, just a question on emergencies, say hurricane. Who is in charge of taking care of the facility? Say we have a 13-foot surge in tides, and does Stratford take care of it? Does New Haven take care of it? Meaning in District 1, we have that happen quite often. So we would like to know who's actually on the hook to take care of this. Is our town doing it? Are you guys doing it? What's the priority level? Do you guys get your service back first? Does Stratford get it last? How does that work?
Right now, actually, everything will be our responsibility. We will work on it in New Haven and we will work on it in Stratford. And Gary's here in regards to discussion in regards to a real operations management plan. We do them. We dealt with the hurricane that took place. Stratford will be as big a priority as any other infrastructure. New Haven, East Haven, Hamden, everything gets worked on at the same time. We take part in the emergency operations centers in the towns. We staff it 24/7 with increased staff, and now we'll be able to actually allocate more staff to Stratford if necessary because we have more staff available. So Stratford doesn't take a back seat. These are our assets if there's an asset purchase. So there isn't any front seat, back seat. It's all ours. Thank you.
My question is, well, I have a couple, but you said there's a benefit to both towns. Stratford looked to regionalize with New Haven, and New Haven looked at Stratford as a compatible partner. What is the benefit to New Haven?
One of the benefits for New Haven is that we will share in some of the overhead costs in regards to some of the management of finance, of the administration's departments, the engineering department. The other is we actually believe that by having Stratford as a asset that's owned, we garner a better bond rating. Better bond rating transitions into lower borrowing. That's for Stratford and for the greater New Haven. But now we spread out, we get another 51,000 in population. Stratford has a good collection rate in regards to their payments to the entity. And we believe that over the long run, that'll give us an actual rating increase for our bonds.
Now, in that same Stratford, the other towns outside of New Haven do not have a water pollution control facility. So Stratford bringing a water pollution control facility into this equation, we seem to be bringing a little bit more to the table than everyone else outside of New Haven. But we're still getting the same number of representatives at the table when we're bringing more to the table.
Yeah, my board would disagree, to be honest with you. I mean, this has got to be some type of a negotiation in regards to how this works. When we started out negotiations, it was identified in regards to could there be 4 members on the board. Well, what happened in the discussion went to between New Haven and Stratford, then they would have 8 members of a 11-member board, and that was frowned upon by the other towns. We need the other constituent municipalities, the town themselves, to agree to the regional transaction in order for us to move forward. There's requirements in regards to the board members. They need to be either made up of technical people, legal people, financial people, people with background in the industry. We have a teacher, so we have a significant board. The discussion in regards to how the board works, the board operates as one body. The board isn't separated into, okay, I'm identified in regards to Hamden or East Haven. The board operates as one body in regards to the benefit of the whole authority, and that would include Stratford and their 2 voting members. And we have this. I had this same exact discussion with our board because they actually raised the same question in regards to, I think that everybody would be better representative if we had this much say in regards to what our electric rates were or what our gas rates were. We'd all really be better served than we are right now.
Councilman, I just wanted to add to that. I think you asked a great question, and the answer is we are getting more. Because if you look at the pilot rates, those payments in lieu of taxes that I referenced in my presentation, Stratford's by far and away getting more than any other constituent municipality except New Haven, who obviously has a larger plant. We're going to be receiving that $400,000, averaged out number. The other municipalities receive less than 80 in some instances. Woodbridge is receiving $5,000 a year. So we are in fact being compensated for the fact that we're bringing more to the table and we are getting more from it. So.
Still seems to me that
because we're bringing more, and New Haven in the future may look to expand, Stratford's the place to expand to, because our capacity level is actually fairly low right now. So we have more room to take on other other towns to tap into our facility, I would think.
Well, I think that's somewhat correct, but I think you have to look at it more of.
You do have extra capacity, but when you expanded your plan, you identified the capacity that in some plan is necessary for the expansion within Stratford. And I hear people raise Trumbull several times. You don't actually have the capacity to bring Trumbull into the system, and that was identified at some point in the past as part of some Trumbull discussion. So you do have capacity, but do you have the capacity to go out and get another town to come in? No, you really have kind of the capacity that you need with your facility to entertain expansion within Stratford.
Okay, thank you. And just the pipes that are in the ground, did I miss that? Whose responsibility is
We're
that?
responsible for all the sewers that are in the ground, short of the stormwater assets, which we don't have anything to do with.
You know, Gabe was being modest before because he was asked, you know, can we predict what the rates are going to be in 5 years? I can only tell you this: I wasn't there when they regionalized, but Gabe was, and they made a projection as far as what the rates would be at the G&H WPCA in 5 years. They hit it within a nickel of the CCF, a nickel. So, you know, it's the same people that worked on this one. So let's hope they figured as well on this one as they did on the G&H WPCA. And when you look at the G&H WPCA, another thing, instead of breaking it up into town having 2 votes or town having 4 votes, the managing, we are chartered as a municipality. So the managing entity, it isn't the towns. It isn't the towns, it's the board of directors. I work for the board of directors. I don't work for the mayor of New Haven. I'm not going to work for the mayor of Stratford. I work for the G&H WPCA board of directors. So they consider themselves one entity. They become the head of the municipality. And that's the way they've approached this. What I've seen, I've been there like 7 years. What I've seen is they all approach this for the betterment of the environment and what's in the best interest of those members of the WPCA.
Thank you.
Ms. Phillips wishes to ask one more question.
Absolutely.
The asset sales agreement that we received and that's published online is not complete. None of the schedules or budgets or anything are included in that to make any real decisions. Could the Greater New Haven and the administration publish all the schedules and provide us a document? I have a draft here of what the expected detailed expenditures are if the WPCA, if the Greater New Haven WPCA takes us over, so we could look at it more thoroughly.
I'm going to ask the council staff to answer that question.
Thank you. The requirement of the statute for the public hearing is that the public hearing be on the asset purchase agreement. But it is common practice to have the asset purchase agreement provided in substantially the form it would be adopted. So I would suggest, Councilwoman Phillips, that we are still in process of putting together the schedules. But I would also suggest that the schedules to that agreement have nothing substantive in them. They are lists of the assets that might be sold, the equipment by listing, they're a listing of accounts receivable, they're a listing of that type of thing, or they're notifications from the town if there's pending litigation that's scheduled, something like that. So those schedules will all be, they're all part of the subject of the due diligence that still is going on between Greater New Haven and Stratford, and they will be completed. Just as the agreement as it's presented to the council, okay, will be substantially complete, but there may be some words that need to be changed here or there, and that would be common practice. So I would suggest that no one is suggesting that there's anything that's substantive that is being kept from the public by not having those schedules available at this point in time. Will you get the schedules? Yeah. The schedules are they're currently being prepared. Yes, the answer is yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are we having, that's a good point, are we gonna get those scheduled before the vote, not the day of, I mean, time that we can actually look at them?
As Attorney Stratford mentioned, these schedules are a moving target, but if you'd like to see where they are to this point, absolutely. Happy to do it.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Seconded by Mr. Santee. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Chair votes yes, motion carries 9-0. Meeting adjourned at 9:18 PM.